Around the world at myjoyonline.com, across Ghana's 16 regions, and on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125. This is the AM show. I'm Sweetie Abochi.
My name is Benjamin Akapo, and I'm impressed by how she's put all of that in her head. How do you do it? How do you do it?
You used to memorize. You committed some LPM to memory, and I was like,
endpoint homeopathic clinic.
Yes.
You know, I still remember tidbits about it. That's crazy.
Of the job, I guess.
Yeah, but just a quick note: we're beginning to color pattern again.
Like we're back. The Ben and Sweetie show. We're back.
2025, and we're back. But anyway. Here's what you can look forward to on the show this morning. Of course, you know we're going to be serving you the news together with business updates and likely our currency market. But for the news review, two members of the different communications teams join us. Dr. Ekua Amwakwa is a member of the MPP's communications team. We also have Kwame Osei-Griffiths, a member of the NDC's communications team. After which we'll serve you sports with Muftau and Nabila Abdullahi. But then we get into our big stories. What do we have coming up?
Well, this morning we'll take a look at the education sector, and we'll be dwelling on some highlights from that ministerial vetting as the president's nominee, Haruna Idrisu, has revealed some 345 million Ghana cedis will be set aside to fulfill the free tuition policy for first-year students in public universities for this academic year, as well as expand and complete all outstanding TVET projects left by his predecessor. We'll take a look at these and some of the fallout there are in there. But that's not all.
Well, tied to that same issue, we'll be continuing our conversation on TVET as the Executive Secretary of CLOCSAG, Isaac Bampo, has come under fire from the TVET division of the Public Service Workers Union for calling on President Mahama to scrap technical vocational education training agencies from the civil service, that is CLOCSAG. Now, CLOCSAG says they duplicate functions of the civil service, and we'll be hearing from the different sides on that conversation.
Well, you know that ministerial vetting continues today. It's a week-long activity, actually. On today's list, we have Ahmed Ibrahim. He's an MP, but Minister Designate for Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. We also have Agnes Na Momolate, and she's Minister Designate for the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Then there is Elizabeth Ofosu-Ajare. She's also an MP, but Minister Designate for the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry. We'll take you live to the Appointments Committee for the proceedings. Yesterday was an interesting day. Can't wait to see what happens today. Benjamin, did you follow?
I did. It was really interesting with Haruna Idrisu and the respect he got. I noticed a lot of comments on different pages about why he was getting that kind of respect. And there were also revelations there from our break to education and all that. But I look forward to today's batch, especially the gender minister.
Well,
that ministry has been, I think it could do a lot more. I wait to see what Namumo will do there.
I can't wait. Let's get the conversation started. But folks, stay with us. Let's start with the AM news. Welcome, folks. I'm Sweetie Abochi, and this is the AM News. Government's free admission for tertiary students is expected to cost Ghana almost 350 million Ghana cedis a year. That is the revelation from Education Minister Designate Haruna Idrisu. Now, this is in reaction to raging concerns over the position of the NDC government on the promise, especially as admissions have closed for most tertiary institutions. The Education Minister Designate Haruna Idrisu has been providing some clarity on the policy, including what he intends to do with the controversial e-blocks at his vetting yesterday. Let's take a listen.
We'll also launch the No Fee Stress Initiative, providing fee-paying support to eligible students, especially through the Student Loan Trust Fund.
The NDC's promise for free admission for tertiary students and the promise to review free SHS became two most controversial policies in the education sector during the campaign period. The matter came up strongly at the vetting of the Minister Designate for Education, Haruna Idrisu, and this was his response.
Chairman, the beauty of this is that it's open. Even parents who are still willing to pay can do so under this principle that has been introduced by the NDC. So we intend to mobilize with the Ministry of Finance some additional financing to cater for the population of students. It will be in the region of 125,000 as I look at it. And we'll provide 375 million Ghana cedis to support that. So every student who has paid will have a refund of his money. And the president intends to expand this over the years.
When quizzed on the free SHS, the minister-designate reaffirms that the policy will be reviewed.
We will undertake a stakeholder forum which will involve donors and partners, involve academia, parents, and students to review the free senior high school program.
On the future of the controversial day senior high schools, he admits that the government may have to convert some of the E-blocks into boarding schools.
In Cherpune and also in Wulesi on the same road, I saw a facility where many of the catchment communities needed that. We would have no difficulty expanding boarding facilities where necessary.
But how does he intend to tackle the many industrial actions over allowance arrears in the educational sector?
I know that CETAC is unhappy. I know many teachers' unions are waiting for President Mahama to assume office and they will say our outstanding allowances have not been paid. We will deal with it what is available in the national kitty. We will do our best to keep the industrial peace of the country and keep the peace within the education sector and many other sectors of the economy for the good of our country.
In what many would describe as the shortest vetting period so far, Haruna Idrisu has promised an overall development in infrastructure in the educational sector. James Savage's report for Joy News.
In other stories, road sector debt balloons more than 400% since 2017, climbing from 17 billion cedis to over 100 billion Ghana cedis. That's according to Roads Minister-designate Kwame Govins Abuja, as he pushes for a review of the contracts and the debts in the sector. During his vetting, which was delayed by over 2 hours due to a heated exchange between the NPP and the NDC, sparked by the minority leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin's remark, Kwame Abuja called for a review of contracts and the mounting debt. He warned that the current situation threatens to overwhelm the entire government's budget.
It turns out that as of today, I've not been to the ministry yet, what they presented to the committee, the NPP government is leaving a minimum of 100 billion Ghana cedi commitment. What you should be worried about, though, is that in that same document, they are saying that certificates unpaid as of today from GOG amounts to about 20 billion Ghana cedis. The ones with road fund is about 15 billion Ghana cedi. What you should be more worried about, my brothers and sisters and colleagues listening to us from outside of this hall, is that if you take the indebtedness up to 2025, which is the road fund debt alone, out of the 15 billion, look at these details. In 2018, we were owing about 113 million Ghana cedi. The interest on the 113 million Ghana cedi this year will be 665 million Ghana cedi. The debt was 113. The interest on the 113 is 665 million. When you take 2019, 210 million, the interest on the 213 million is 960 million Ghana. 2020, we were owing 424 million. The interest on the 424 million is 1.5 billion. 2021, the debt was 616 million. The interest on that is currently 1.69 billion. 2022, 693 million, and currently 1.4 billion. The question is, how do I explain this to the taxpayers in Addo that we owe 113 million and the interest on the 113 million is 665 million? I believe the issues about the road sector concerns all of us. Everybody here wants better road to our communities. These are not monies that have been thrown away. but it's because of the way contracts are written in this country, which says that if somebody raises a certificate and you don't pay after a period of time, 30% interest accrues on it. So this, as a result of the 30%, we are made to pay 15 billion on road fund alone. The question is, the 20 billion that is, how do you call it, GOG, what will be the interest on that?
Now, Kwame Govins-Agbodza has proposed a sector-wide review followed by a dialogue to address the mounting debt, potentially involving some cuts.
First of all, whatever solutions we have, we still owe and we have to pay. That is why I referenced the finance minister to start with. How is he going to raise the money? I don't know at the moment. It is his responsibility to raise the money. But I think, additionally, what we should be doing is to sit down with the industry players, contractors, and the agencies that are awarding road contract. We need to sit down with them. The way we contract, the way we write some of the contracts have to be reviewed. Government itself need to take a step back to find out whether it is appropriate to keep awarding projects when no one knows where the projects are going to be financed. As for payment, it is the Ministry of Finance job to find the money. But what I can do to help, and as I stated earlier, is to bring together the stakeholders, contractors and everybody. I am sure if we were to call contractors and sit down with them and say, look, this debt, frankly speaking, the finance minister, who is the leader of the house, has already stated, if all the taxes we collect is 200 million, a billion, you can't hand over all that to just one ministry. And if you keep that money on the books, it keeps getting worse. So maybe, we need to sit down with all the stakeholders to see where we cut our losses. Do we agree with them? We pay you off a certain amount of money. If you owe a bank, we can draw the bank in. After all, did we not see the whole country try to negotiate debt that is owed, even individuals? So I think that the time has come for us to bring together all players in the road sector to see how we can make this sustainable.
Govins-Agbodza, the minister-designate has provided first-hand details on the Mahama government's plan to reintroduce road tolls. And he revealed that the tolls will primarily be implemented using technology rather than traditional physical booths.
When the issue of the road toll started, our side, Honorable former minority leader, together with me and the former road minister, Honorable Makwata, decided to caution government that do not cancel or suspend road toll. Let's rather find ways of plugging the leakages in terms of the collection and enhance it. Honorable Haruna and myself met Honorable Makwata and gave our commitment that don't cancel it. Indeed, we were surprised on the day the road toll, they claimed they zeroed it. For me, it was an act of illegality. Yes, they said they just zeroed it. But it was, a road fund has got an act. It's a law. So you couldn't unilaterally do that. As a result, I believe there was a level of negligence in the way it was done. They claimed road toll was accruing only about 80 million. But today, there are contractors working for government of Ghana who are owed 5,000 cedis within the roadside. Can you imagine how many roadside weed clearers will be paid with 80 million? So they cancelled it. And our side consistently stood on principle and said, bring the road toll back. Yes, the road toll is coming back, but not in the form of building obstructions on the road for drivers to stop and somebody taking money from them. It will be coming back based on a technological platform that make it fair and that make it easy to collect, easy to account for, and for the public to know what the money is actually being used for. Together with the road minister, we shall come out with a policy as to how that will be done. That is my response.
In other stories, students of the University of Ghana are voicing their frustration over a 20% increase in residential fees. A statement from the Public Affairs Directorate of the university announced that the residential fees for halls belonging to the university, including the Commonwealth Hall, Equiafo, Legon and Mensa Saba halls, have been set at 3,000 Ghana cedis per student for the academic year, following approval by the University Council. Joy News' Collins Frimpong has been engaging some students who are urging authorities to reconsider the decision.
Less than 1 week for 2024-2025 academic year to begin for level 100 students in the University of Ghana. The University of Ghana, through its Public Affairs Directorate, has issued a statement announcing a new increase in residential fees. Level 100 students are expected to pay 3,000 Ghana cedis for their academic year, compared to last year, where they paid roughly 2,500 Ghana cedis. Continuing students who the academic year began in the 2024 also have been told to top up their residential fees by additional 500 cedis. Speaking to some students in the University of Ghana, they have expressed their frustrations about the whole situation.
And we have previously agreed on something, and the agreement was that all final years and continuous students will have to pay 2,000 cedis. As of, there was another increment in that fees. So we had agreed and we paid that 2,000 cedis. And then I just wake up Sunday and I heard that I saw a message circulating that there was an increment in the residential fees again. So I think this I would say that it is an autocracy decision that I've taken.
Right now I've paid my hall fees 2,000 cedis, and now just sending another information that I have to pay an additional 1,500 cedis. Is going to be stressful. What if my parents are not able to afford? I still have to go through another stress during the vacation to make up that money to come and pay.
Increasing residential fees, without any prior notice, without giving us ample time to prepare. We are still in school, our parents are still sending us money. We still need to feed. There are few projects to be done. All these things cost money. And then you're also telling us that you have increased our residential fees from 2,000 cedis to 3,000, or even potentially 3,400 Ghana cedis. Who does that?
Students in the University of Ghana are appealing to the university management to reconsider the increment.
Management will have to review their decision, and that what have been issued to students this week. Management will have to reconsider their decision and then consider the situation of the students currently. Some of us are here, we barely eat for, we have something we call information 001 a day. Even the ones I'm talking about, students don't get a better food to eat.
Over the years, we got to know that the traditional halls are always something that we believe to be in the hands of the government. So the government makes sure that he does what he could to make it affordable for the normal people or average people to get it. Now, if it is also competing with the diaspora and the other halls, I don't really see the difference. So
the 2024-2025 academic year began in October for the continuing students, and the level 100 students were also expected to report to school in January. Reporting for Joy News, Collins Frimpong.
Nightlife in Obuasi is grinding to a halt as residents cite security concerns following that recent clash between the military and some illegal miners who breached the security fence of one of the abandoned concessions of Anglo Gold Ashanti. Some night hawkers along the street and lorry stations in the town are now ending their trading activities hours before their usual closing time. The residents are eagerly anticipating amicable resolutions to the impasse to restore life to the gold mining town. Emmanuel Bright-Kweku is in Obuasi and reports.
It's about 8 p.m. in Obuasi, and most of the streets in the gold town are becoming empty. The recent impasse in the community has brought an easy calm as a number of the night traders pack out before their usual closing time. Atajwa sells bread along the Mangwase stretch of the main Obuasi road leading into the town center. This has been her daily source of livelihood in the last 9 years.
Christmas, you cried the night me pon bay 11 and 10:30 near the many woman, a friend and Amelie, and I am ponte.
During Christmas, we could close around 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. We usually don't close early, but following the incident, we have to pack our stuff and leave early. A few meters away from her sits Ma Hannah, who is into the sale of fruits. After her usual customers, basic school pupils, were directed to stay out of school, she had hoped an evening sale could help her rake in more profits for the day. But that has not been the case. The market didn't boom today. Students did not go to school, neither did the staff go to work because of what has happened. If there is no scaffold, we are able to sell goods. Ekuya also sells at one of the lorry stations in the heart of the town. She says the situation has in the last 2 days impacted her daily sales.
4 million or 5 million. It's 2 million.
I usually make more profits, but now I am unable. For the past 2 days, nobody from the bus terminal has been to my shop. According to the residents, the recent killings of the miners have thrown the ones buzzing town into silence. By now, you should expect a lot of people around, but that's not the case today. Following the violent clash in the town, security has been tightened to avert any escalations. The heavy security presence in the town is, however, bringing some relief to the residents.
Be 10 minutes time, police.
Because of what has happened, you would meet security personnel every 10 minutes of your walk through town.
Apart from your barriers, your police for no one.
So for the many residents in Obuasi, they are hoping that nightlife could be restored back to them to gain their economic activities back on track. From here in Obuasi in the Ashanti region, my name is Emmanuel. Right quick.
Moving on, a total of 156 persons in the Upper West region are undergoing vetting processes to be nominated as municipal and district chief executives in the 11 administrative municipalities and districts of the region. The vetting committee is expected to select 33 out of the 156 applicants by the close of the week for consideration by President John Dramani Mahama for nomination. The Upper West Regional Secretary of the NDC and a member of the vetting committee, lawyer Charles Lawanga Pozuing, in an interaction with Joy News Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam, stated that beyond party loyalty, they will be looking for individuals who can unite the party and drive development in their respective areas.
The Presidential Lord of the Upper West Region played host to the vetting of municipal and district chief executives in the region. A total of 158 persons had penciled their names for the 11 vacant positions. 2 of them later withdrew their applications.
Out of the 11 municipal and districts in the Upper West region, 2 today have lined up to take their turn. They are the Sisala West and in the Sisala East. The applicants has been telling us about why they want to be municipal and district chief executives in their respective communities.
To be a DC, fixing of roads should be one of your priorities, because you need to actually make sure that all your roads are motorable for your constituents to be able to move around and do their work. We actually use the district assembly equipments to do reshaping and do regraveling. But where roads are already awarded and they are on contracts, we actually have to lobby the contractor to go back to site and complete those projects as soon as possible.
Teenage pregnancy issue. The girls, they lack role models. So we are going to give them more role models. We are going to visit schools. We make our visits regular to the schools, talk to the girls, educate them, let them see their colleagues who have excelled in education. And we are going to use our mother, professor, myself, our regional women organizer, and all women that are in the region as a motivation for them. And we know that with this education, the girls will change their attitudes.
I'm the competent lady that can bring togetherness in the Sisale East to bring development to the municipality. I believe with the kind of leadership style that I'm bringing, it will definitely bring development to the municipality.
The living of the people should be well organized in standard form. Coming to render a service there, I'll send myself to sleep and send my people to live how they want to live.
There are a lot of things in terms of education, agriculture, and other areas that the constituency is lacking behind. I think that with me in charge, I'll be able to prove the leadership that is required for the constituency or the district to move forward.
We also spoke to the Upper West Regional Secretary of the NDC, Lawyer Charles Longa Poison, who spoke to us what they are looking for in the respective applicants who want to be the DCE or MCE of their various areas.
No, basically, we are looking for people who are developmental oriented and committed to the cause of their communities and the party as well. And therefore, we are also not just looking at people we think that are capable of only working, but are capable of uniting and bringing development to their people. So that is more crucial to us than every other thing.
Lawyer Luongo Pozun also used the opportunity to advise the people and the media regarding appointments made by President John Dramani Mahama to stay calm and exercise restraint, adding that the president has good plans for the Upper West region.
Yes, other regions have theirs, others haven't come, but it will definitely come. We know His Excellency promised to announce in 14 days. So tomorrow is the 21st, and that is the 14th day after swearing in. So even if it doesn't happen today, we believe that it will happen tomorrow. So let's be patient and let's hold on to the rumors.
Are you optimistic that you will be one of the people nominated by President John Dramani Mahama?
If I'm called upon by him to serve the people of Upper West, why not? Because I believe that I'm qualified to be both even if it is substantive ministerial position to lead the country or at the regional level. I'm ready and willing to take up that mantle and to serve the people of Upper West if I'm nominated.
One other issue that the veteran committee in the Upper West region here is looking at is the issue of punctuality. How punctual are these applicants for this position? And we are told that only one person was disqualified for coming late. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam.
From WA, let's get into our business update segment with Benjamin Akaku.
Thank you for staying for business. In our first story, the Minister-designate for Food and Agriculture, Eric Opoku, has announced the government will be deploying several methods to address the rising food inflation in the country. He contends the Feed Ghana program, farmer service centers, among other key initiatives, will be introduced to control inflation. These, he believes, will go a long way to bring food inflation down. Mr. Opoku made these known when he appeared before the Appointments Committee of Parliament.
To address food inflation in Ghana, you need a multifaceted approach. First, you have to work towards increasing production, food production. And that's the reason why we are introducing the Feed Ghana program. Second, you have to work towards the reduction of cost of production, reducing the cost of agricultural production. And that is why President Mahama wants to establish the farmer service centers. These farmer service centers, when established, we are going to deploy agricultural machinery, tractors, tillers, combine harvesters, to these centers. And Mr. Chairman, this time round, we are not going to import only the big tractors. We have taken consideration of the fact that 90%, almost 90% of our farmer population are into peasant farming, and they do not have the capacity, regardless of the subsidy placed on the agricultural machinery, to procure. And so we are going to bring in more of mini tractors, mini tillers, mini combine harvesters, and deploy them to the centers. Fertilizer, subsidized fertilizer will be reintroduced. And this time around, we'll distribute them through the farmer service centers. Agricultural improvements.
Well, government recorded another impressive 39% oversubscription of Treasury bill sales as demands for the short-term instruments grew. That's according to auction results by the Bank of Ghana. This, however, came at the expense of mounting interest rates, which will increase interest payments. There's a business desk report on this.
The government got 8.890 billion cedis from the total bid tendered by the investors, largely banks, but accepted 8.839 billion cedis. The target for the auction was 6.353 billion cedis. About 5.6 billion cedis came from the 91-day bill, representing 63.9% of the total bid. The government, however, accepted 5.648 billion cedis of the bid. For the 182-day bill, 1.318 billion cedis were tendered. However, 1.307 billion cedis were accepted. 1.883 billion cedis were tendered for the 364-day bill, in which all were accepted. Meanwhile, interest rates went up again, raising concerns about the government mounting interest rate. The yield on the 91-day bill shot up by 8 basis points to 28.41%. That of the 182-day bill also increased to 28.97% from the previous 28.96%. The rate on the 364-day bill also increased by 11 basis points to 30.17%.
Thank you for staying. It's a wrap for our business updates, and I hand the baton back to Sweetie Abochi.
Thank you, Ben, for bringing us business updates. But you want to stay with us because News Review comes right up next. Dr. Ikuyamu is a member of the NPP communications team. Kwame Osei Griffiths is a member of the NDC communications team, and they're joining us to review the newspapers. Please stay.
Welcome back. Time now for the news review, and we're joined by our guests in the studio. My own in-house guest, Sweetie Abochi, has taken her seat. Caught.
No,
Gotcha.
Ben,
gotcha.
That to me. Hi, I'm Sweetie Abochi. Ben and I co-host the show, and let me introduce our guest to you this morning. We have Dr. Ikuyamu, and she's a member of the NPP comms team, and we have Kwame Osei Griffiths. He's a member of the NDC communications team. Lady, gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Benjamin Akaku, now back to you.
Yes. Would you like to make me your guest now? But it's good to have you join the conversation. You know the tradition already, but to Mr. Griffiths, we always give about a minute, maximum a minute and a half to our news review guests to talk about something they find interesting, something they want to vent on. I'll start with her because she's done this before, and then maybe you can take it from there.
Today, I don't have a lot to vent on. Well, I think it's also a good day to send our condolences to the people of Obuasi. What happened there was disastrous, and I'm hoping that the new president is able to call for he's already called for an investigation, so we are eagerly awaiting detailed reports on that, because situations like that should not repeat themselves. I mean, lives are precious, and even if one is lost, I'm hearing the toll is even now confused, whether it's 8, 9, or above. So I think a lot more information needs to come out on that. Keeping it short and sweet today.
Yeah, short and sweet. But investigations are ongoing, so I guess we'll see what that will unearth. Yesterday, when we interacted with Felix Kwachiofosu, I was trying to push him to find out, look, how speedily can this be done? But he said at the same time, it's a major event. We want it done in time, but we also don't want to rush the security services.
I mean, for them, it's a tricky issue for them.
Very.
Since there is some responsibility.
Yeah.
And I feel like the events of that have brought in a lot of issues to light. How journalists should be more responsible, how all of us as politicians should be more responsible on the kind of things we say on the campaign trail. So, I mean, that's a terrible thing that happened, but we are all eagerly...
I know what you're referencing, but let's
see what happens. Yeah, I'm leaving it there.
Let's move on from there.
Short and sweet.
Let's allow the investigation.
Yeah,
Mr. Griffiths.
So, I think I'll continue on the same note, if that's okay. I think the presidency has requested 3 things to happen: an investigation, and also the fact that Anglo Gold, they want Anglo Gold to take care of the sick and then bury the dead, and also deployed some police and military to the area. And I because of that, it's very difficult to pass judgment since there's an investigation. However, having listened to...
But are we to pass judgment? It's more about the situation and how we got here and how we can get out of here.
Well, the issue is that if you listen to the miners, they claim that when they encountered the military, they knelt and raised their hands, and because that brings to the fore the rules of engagement. Are you really able to, to fire straight into a crowd when, The
military also says they were fired on.
Yes.
And then they give details of all the kinds of munitions these people were holding.
That's why I said it's difficult to pass judgment on this issue. Because they also have claimed that, that if the miners, version of the story is true, then, then a lot of things would have to, maybe some retraining and what have you, because you pick from some of the soldiers you speak to that they are very ready to go on the offensive after what happened to the soldiers.
Okay.
See, these are underlining...
Posthumously Major Mahama. That's
yes, Major Mahama.
The Denchambwasi...
exactly. So,
I see.
And the military also says they were fired, and the casualties have all come from the civilian side. That's also another thing we need to look at.
But there was one
injured
soldier, like she was mentioning.
All the deaths, and one injured, yes. And then all the deaths have come from the other side. So those are things that I think the team would look at and then interrogate properly and then come up with.
Sweetie, just to top up on this briefly, like I've reiterated, one, this bit about the military getting involved in certain actions, when things come to a head, yes, you would have to fall on the military. Their orientation is very different. So when they engage, it's also not like the police, like we've seen in some instances, like in Ejura, among others. And of course, there were committees set up. I remember Dr. Vladimir Intridanso on that committee. But the other angle too is, if it proves true, you don't engage the military and not expect. And when I say engage, if you shoot at the military, they will shoot back at you. I'm saying if it is true that these illegal miners, and I put it in the context, you see what is happening in South Africa, among others. The right things must be done. Civilian lives must not be compromised because of some gung-ho, military officer. That's the one end. But on the other end, you can't engage the military if they did and expect that, they'll not. Of course, they have to try to de-escalate. But if you are firing bullets at them, I just want civilians to realize that you can't do that.
Yes, and
you shouldn't.
And to add to that, these soldiers, I remember, I was in the military in the U.S. I was in the U.S. Navy. And I remember the first time we went on, to check, they check how many bullets you can fire. You usually do 30 and see how many will hit on target. When we started, it was 0-30. But before you left...
When you say 0-30,
it means
you are missing all of them.
You didn't hit any targets. Usually, for most people, it will be 1 or 2 or 3 or so. But after you are leaving your basic training, you are doing 30-30. Because these people, having a weapon alone is not enough to be able to use it properly. You need to develop that muscle memory that tells you that when you pull the trigger, it's hitting this target. Yeah. So, and the military have all those facilities to train. So it's very wrong for any civilian to think that you can have pump action guns and what have you and then engage the military in this way.
Right.
Let me also say that the military too have rules with which they engage. If there is an imminent threat, you are not supposed to deploy deadly force.
Yeah.
And even if you deploy deadly force, it has to be measured.
Yeah.
Obviously, if 8 or 10 people, I'm hearing 8, 9, 10, died on the side of the civilians and there wasn't any major casualty on the side of the military, then it was a bit disproportionate.
Well.
And I think that should also be,
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Points made. But let's get into the stories. I want to start by shining light on the new the new appointments that have come to bear. And we'll be putting that on the screens for you to see so far. But we know that as of now, these are the people who will be serving in the president's office. We have presidential advisor and special aide to the president. Looks like Mrs. Joyce Mokhtari maintained her position. And we have Stanley Jose Dogbe, popularly known as Stan Dogbe, and he's deputy chief of staff in charge of operations. We have Nana Oyebampo Addo. I'm excited for this one. And she's Deputy Chief of Staff Administration. And I think we all know who this woman is. She served as a gender minister. We have Seth Imano Tekpe, former finance minister. He's now serving as presidential advisor on the economy. And I think that's the former finance minister's role, right? When Akufo-Addo eventually moved in from finance minister, that's the position he got, advisor on the economy. And now we have Professor Francis Dodu, Presidential Advisor, National Anti-Corruption Program, Larry Gbavlo-Late, Special Envoy to the Alliance of Sahelian States. And then we have Nanaya Chepim Janswa, she was here yesterday, Presidential Staffer. Beatrice Anangfil is Presidential Staffer. Shamima Muslim, yeah, another strong woman from the NDC's camp, going as Deputy Presidential Spokesperson, which means she's assisting Felix Kwasi. And then number 10, we have Professor Kweku Dan Sobwafo, and he is Cabinet Secretary. So these are the new nominations or appointments that have come out so far from the presidency communications. What do you make of these appointments, ladies and gentlemen? Ekwe, I see you smiling. I'm just excited because Nana Oye is back in government. I think she was a strong oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kingsley. You know, she is a human rights lawyer with over 32 years experience. And she has so many awards. I can't wait to see what she does this time.
That peacock-like dress is amazing, girl. Looks very good.
The colors are vibrant.
Right. And that smile.
I think for me, I'm happy to see a lot of what I call my sparring partners on there, Shamima Muslim and Beatrice Anand. I mean, it's good to be appreciated. They put in a lot of work during the campaign, so yeah, congratulations to them. Nanaya on the other side, I will have to meet her and ask her a few questions.
She was sitting right where you are sitting.
Because we used to meet
yesterday
on another show, and you know, she will take a lot of offense when you point out, it looks like you are really you are working on the reset team. She will literally fight with you. So I have to ask her now, what happened? I mean, but minus that, I mean, I'll just congratulate them all. It's early days yet, so let's see what they have to offer. But personally, I'm very happy for Beatrice and Shamima. Because we've been going at it throughout the whole campaign.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't expect that they would put someone in that position. What Ken Oforiatta had, you know, the advisor on the economy. The argument when he was moved from finance ministry to that bit was that it was not necessary. But here we are with somebody else there. And Setekpe has proven that, you know, he knows his business.
I think it's going to become very clear to a lot of Ghanaians. There are a lot of things that the NDC said during our term, and especially during the campaign, was just exactly that. What they were campaigning on, they will not be able to, because you're going to have 60 ministers and you have an army of people in your party and an army of people who worked. And let's not kid ourselves. When you join a political party and that's machinery and effort to work to win political power, usually those are the people that form government. So, I mean...
Okay.
Well, let me just say this. I don't know whether to call it a correction, but it's an aside. The role Setekpe is playing is not necessarily the same role that Ken Oforiatta was
I was going to say
selected to.
The title is even different.
As for an advisor, you would have advisors on the crucial sectors. In fact, cabinet areas, you would have advisors on all of them, including finance. It's just that this time, instead of being minister, he's an advisor, and then his former deputy is now going to be
but it's still
the minister.
What
we need to do, for the sake of accountability, though, what I want to see, because if you look at the top 6 names, for example, you know, Nanaya Ajantwa is technically not a member of the National Democratic Congress. She's CPP.
Technically, yes.
Right? But if you look at the top 6, these are all positions. And Larry Bevlolati, right from the start, in terms of security matters, he's my former lecturer. You know, his name had come up as part of the security team and all of that. No surprises in here, because if you look at the NDC over time, these are some, in fact, I feel it is good that I'm seeing these names here, because if we were not seeing them in ministerial positions and we're not seeing them here, then you would ask yourself, where are they going? Because then you would be at the risk of creating more jobs
for them
somewhere.
Yes, yes.
So I'm even happy I'm seeing them here. It means certain constituencies are being satisfied already. And then you have the others who have also played their role. My interest is Larry Bevlolati. He has quite some work to do, because, you know, this alliance of Sahelian states is essentially those that are breaking away from ECOWAS. And there's a lot of work to be done there. To even think of, I don't know how intractable the situation is or what the possibilities are in terms of reintegrating them in ECOWAS. That is, if they'll even be interested. But his work cut out for him.
Yes, because we are very strong voices in the ECOWAS. So
okay, let's hear Mr. Griffith.
Well, I've actually worked with most of them. Most of them. Joyce have had the opportunity to work closely with Standobe, and these are very wonderful people, very good at what they do, and most importantly, very dedicated to, you know, the work that they do. Nanoye, I'm very happy for, you know, for her finally getting back into government, and I wish them all well. I'm sure that they would do well for the, you know, this new administration. The title of the former finance minister, I think, I don't remember exactly what the title was. But
right,
it was
it's special advisor on finance and internet, yes.
Yes, so it made us give him the name International Finance Minister, if you remember. Yeah. So I think it's a bit different from what the role of Sektepe. Sektepe, obviously, is one of the most experienced, you know, finance ministers that we have had in the past. And I believe that he getting close to the first gentleman would really be helpful to them.
And I guess to add to that point, when Kenoforiata, of course, once he was no longer minister, you had to, when he went, there were already advisors on finance. It wasn't as though he was now going to.
No,
but,
you guys are right, actually. So it's, he was senior presidential advisor to the president, and then he was also doing something about international matters in terms of finance. So you're right. It's
so we called him the international finance minister because of that.
Anyway.
Should we get into the papers? The Ghanaian publisher. These are all stories from yesterday, actually, and it was the same picture that we saw. Akufo-Addo gives thanks to God. I did my best for Ghana. Ikuya, it's lovely to have you here. I want to take your bid on this in a bit. Now, military kills 7 illegal miners in Obuasi. We are learning that the death toll is risen. We are talking about 9 or so as we speak. EC appeals for security to complete Ablekuma North Coalition. So let me just put this aside and get to the New Republic. Signal bosses spy ring around JM exposed. Mole planted on Reverend Wengam, paid by national security. Now, I do not know for sure if the fact here, but let's get into the details before we can discuss it. In the lead up to the highly anticipated 2024 election, shocking revelations have emerged of clandestine spying conducted by the Akufo-Addo government on the then leader of the identified as Theophilus Nkansa. This undercover operative continues to hold a position within the personal security detail of the Reverend General Superintendent of Assemblies of God. I think the story is talking about some spy ring around the president, John Dramani Mahama, and all that. But it's a long read. I want to take my time to get into this. But we also know that there have been cameras in the Flagstaff, which makes sense. I mean, I see the wisdom now in the president taking his time to ensure that everything is cleared and checked before he moves into the house. But over to you.
I think, and let's not forget that there's also the issue of the private jet.
Yes.
Where there are claims that apart from the security clearances the military has to give, security people have to sweep it to ensure there are no bugs?
I think it's very basic. It's basic practice that you sweep wherever you go, and I mean, especially at that level, the presidency. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, who would think that you install cameras and there wouldn't be a sweep? I mean, there definitely will be a sweep. So I don't know whether it was intentional or probably because people put hidden cameras there not just to spy on their enemies. Sometimes it is just, for certain things that they want to keep record of. So I'm really wondering why, somebody would think, if it was meant to spy on the new administration, would think that a president will move into an office and not have a security sweep of the place. It's very basic.
I find it interesting that, these accusations, and they've named names, actually. I just don't want to mention them. And I've skimmed through the story, and there are no sources named, You should tell us where you get this information from. If you're naming people, you're saying here that with a complex web of deception, Addo Boahen orchestrated a spy ring under his own direction, strategically placing a mole within this. Where are you getting this information from, the New Republic?
And that is always...
Let us be sure, yeah.
That is always problematic. And that is why such stories, while there may be some truth to bugging and all of that, I mean, some ministers in the past have shared with me how when they took, and I'm not mentioning regime, so you wouldn't know, how they took office and later found out that their offices had been bugged by some previous occupant. That's it. If you know anything about security, these are normal. You have to sweep. But some of these stories, it's very difficult to substantiate because there's no evidence. And when names are mentioned, I mean, it becomes a bit problematic. So we're just going to skip this for now. We can
do our own independent checks and verify what this is about. Mahama's government takes shape with... I wanted to come to Ikea on the president saying that he's done his best for Ghana. That's Thanksgiving.
That's former President Akufo-Addo.
Yes, I have not had a chance to hear you on this.
Yes, I think he's absolutely right to say he's done his best for Ghana. I mean, if you followed the history of politics around the world and even locally, sometimes, especially when a whole country goes through significant economic crisis, it is quite normal for the population to turn on the government at that time. So it usually takes some time for what actually happened to become clear to the people. If we can name names, when Churchill left the UK, it was terrible. Thatcher, even locally, Kwame Nkrumah, people were happy about it. It usually takes time for you to see that, I mean, he wasn't that bad. And for ex-President Nana Addo, there are clear things that we will always remember him for. The free SHS. I mean, it's obvious that he did his best. He tried to do his best. There were problems. He had a government where, for the first time in my lifetime, and I think a lot of people's lifetime, there was a world pandemic, like something on the scale of the yellow virus, things that only happened in the past. So obviously that would have a significant impact on his governance. So I do agree with him perfectly that he's done his bit for the people of Ghana, and we are very grateful. I'm sure with time, the public, things will become clearer, and then I'm definitely sure that his public image will be restored.
Okay.
But just a quick top up, time doesn't heal all wounds.
Oh, definitely.
And it's not every leader. For example, me, and sometimes people feel a bit, because I am your typical Democrat, but I really like what Ignatius Kutu Echampong did in Ghana, in respect of, well, the Yin Chia had its own, dimensions, but Operation Feed Yourself.
Yeah.
If we had continued, the likes of Dr. Eo Abudu and some others who were the real people behind this, if we had continued on that trajectory, I think Ghana would have advanced economically by far. Yes. But when you say, time doesn't heal all wounds. Time doesn't always judge you nicely.
But I believe...
No, I didn't say fairly, nicely. And as we remember Akufo-Addo, no one can take away free SHS from the former president. And it's good that he started it, though you listen to Haruna Idrissa, he mentions that it's like putting the cart before the horse, because you should have started from a certain level with F-cube. We've gone to free SHS, so it's like top-bottom approach. But whatever the case may be, free SHS is fantastic. And if done well, many more Ghanaians will benefit. However, we'll also remember him for the National Cathedral project. It was an ambitious
projects that saw a lot of problems. And you know, I was having a discussion on this cathedral issue with a friend, and he was reminding me how almost all cathedral projects around the world have a lot of controversy. So I think let's just leave it at that. I strongly believe, I don't agree with you on that, I strongly believe that with time it will become clear that ex-President Nana Addo did his best.
All right, thank you. Mr. Griffith, what do you make of that? Those are my only stories, so yeah.
Well, I think, I mean, he's giving thanks to God for I think that's okay. But however, you see, the issue, what really happened during his tenure, I mean, it would take quite some time for Ghanaians to really, erase from their memory. Especially the fact that the pandemic was blamed for most of the problems that we had.
And the Russian-Ukraine
And the Russian-Ukraine war. And I remember there was an issue recently, the fires that, I saw somebody put on their status that if, like by now we would say because of the fires in the US, the economy is bad in Ghana. Anyway, but Ghana was not the only country that was confronted with these issues. And I think comparatively, what people really, what led to the results that we see is that people saw that comparatively, if you look at Ghana and the countries around us, our indicators and everything were quite bad comparatively. And also, let me also say that people also think of him as didn't listen too much to, because you have a situation where you had a certain number of parliamentarians really rising to say, change the finance minister because things are not going well, from his own political party. And instead, they felt they were being rather targeted. So these are stories that would remain, in our history, political history of this country.
All right.
We'll also remember him briefly for some economic progress before COVID-19. To be fair, before 2021, 2022, there was some stability in there. But someone also sends a message reminding me that we'll remember him for the haircuts, first time.
Yes.
I mean, it's
yeah,
always,
it was a difficult time. But, I don't know if you had some time to look at the Afrobarometer report that just came out. They listed about 4 policies that over 70% of Ghanaians wanted continued, regardless of who was in government. And free SHS was one of them. 1D, 1F was one of them. And I think even planting for food and jobs. Yes. Free SHS and 1D, 1F are initiatives personally I know a lot about. I know they were marvelous and they were steps in the right direction. So I think, let's let things settle.
Well, the jury is out.
Yeah.
Let's get into other papers. Mr. Griffith, have you done your papers yet? Or Sweetie, were you going to do a different paper? Right.
Mine doesn't seem to have anything interesting.
I like that we start with the major papers, then we,
The Hawk,
go down
There's
to
a story
ones that are new and not very, So let's do your paper.
We're seeing road tolls to be reintroduced.
That's what the Ghanaian Times
Yes,
newspaper.
Ghanaian Times, right. Yes. With digitized systems, Abuja. I think his verdict was yesterday, the Honorable Abuja. Donald Trump sworn in as president. that was
a very cute ceremony.
Exciting news. 20th, isn't it? 20th January, finally. I love Melania's outfit. And 5 illegal miners arrested for excavators seized at Wenchi. So I think the whole Galamsey issue is still raging on.
Any major story in there?
I'm going to just the tolls again.
I saw road tolls something, the page before.
Yeah, so that was the headline initially. So road tolls to be reintroduced with digitized systems. That's the Honorable MP who has been appointed as the Minister for Roads. So we are excited to see how that goes with a digitized system. I think we in the MPP have always heralded a digital economy and making things more convenient for the people. So let's see how he does that. CPP supports oral, expects recovery of loot from 1966. I think, yes, if you are going to go on that tangent of recovery.
Is it feasible to say you are recovering from 1966?
So one thing I also noticed about, especially...
And I'm sure they are speaking of after February 24, 1966, when Kwame Nkrumah was
there's a point
ousted.
there to be made, isn't it? Because, especially oral, now has it become about taking back state lands or financial corruption? And if it's about taking back state lands, I saw recently that I think...
Do we have to differentiate?
No, and I was going to ask you that.
It's lands and
it's easier to have that
corruption has many tentacles, different facets.
Let me
state lands, it falls right in
Let me
there.
explain why I separate the two. Because currently, it's not absolutely illegal to buy a government land, is it? Yeah. And then financial corruption is illegal. That's why I separate them, so that when you are talking about...
But there are ethical...
Definitely.
There are people who are getting, I mean, if you're purchasing land in cantonments, I know a few things. I've seen certain, you are looking at millions either in dollars, mostly, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Or CD equivalents, right? I know properties, right? I don't want to mention names. And if those same properties are being sold to certain people with political clout or politically exposed people for a pittance, that doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
If you're buying a certain vehicle of a certain caliber, and I suppose that was why yesterday at the appointments committee, if you remember that question by Afenyo Markin to Haruna Idrisi.
Where does he live?
Where he lived, in cantonment somewhere. And do you own the house or are you renting it? And he said, I own the house. And he said, you're a very honest man and all of that. I mean, you can own it, but what is your financial backbone? Haruna, for example, he has a football team. Recently, they sold someone for millions and what? I mean, people do these things. Yeah. If he has a house in cantonments, I'm sure he may have ways of... How about other politicians who do?
Yeah, so
that's where
I was going with this oral conversation was, I think in President Mahama's first term in office, Honorable Ablakwa took Jacob Echebi Lamte to court over an issue of state lands. The court threw it out. That's what I'm talking about. And if you're talking about the issue of acquiring state lands, to me personally, ethically, it looks wrong to be able to buy a land in cantonment for 170,000 cedis also. But when you look at it, it's a practice that goes back beyond the Addo era. Between 2009...
reason why
we need to stop it.
So, I mean, let me, sweetie, on this. Yeah. So, between 2009 and 20, it was done. During President Kufuor's time, it was done. So, I think the conversation should be, should we outlaw it? Or should there be a system where the lands are properly appraised generally, so that if you are going for a land at cantonment, whether you're a state official or not, we know the price you are supposed to pay. That's the right way to go, because now, currently, technically, even though it might not look good, it is not illegal. And so if you are going to go back and see state lands, it should not start from 2016.
Well, I'll tell you something that is definitely illegal. If you are taking parks and gardens land, for example, some of which we've heard, that is definitely a problem.
Yes, and also, you know, the prices at which these lands are going for, you know, like 150,000 when it should be selling for millions. I know that in the past, Okujecho took Jake to court and it didn't go too well.
Yes.
I believe, I'm not a lawyer, but I know there are also laws in this country that allows the state to take any land that they want.
Yes.
And they give you back, they give you compensation. They have to adequately compensate you. In my view, there is no need to take anybody to court to determine whether they acquire these lands legally or not. Just go back by that law and take the lands back and give them back the money they paid as compensation. And that's it.
Yeah, but for me, subsequently, you have to codify it so that it doesn't continue happening.
Another point that I want to make is that I think that it's important to establish the fact that Oral was not given any particular period, you know, with which they should investigate corruption. So if
investigating corruption.
Not investigation. I mean, take information. Very important. I'm glad you corrected that. Gathering information, you know, and I believe that, you know, if anybody has information at any other time that state land was, you know, acquired in a way that they should still take it to Oral and they would work on it.
All right. There was a story I think you wanted to do, Mr. Griffith?
Yes. Yeah. The graphic business has a story about the fact that businesses are folding because cost of capital is very high. I think that's a very important story that we need to look at. The CEO of Stanbic has said that policy rate is at 27%. And if you look at policy rate is just the rate after inflation. Risk premium and all those things have not even been built on it. So banks are forced to sell capital as high as 35%. And that's what the going rate is. And I wonder what business that you'll be doing or startups that you would, with all the risks associated with it, that would, you could be paying interest in, excess of 30% and still make it. So I think these are, and if you look at, I looked at the vetting of the ministers yesterday, and most of them, the initiatives that they proposed, they came up with how to make sure there's cheap capital to fund those things. And I think as a nation, we need to really look at that, how to create startups that will not be caught in this web of having to pay interest rate of 35%, because no business will survive at that rate.
Right.
Yeah.
We have very limited time. Are you done with
Yes,
your paper?
yes.
Have you done your paper?
Yeah, actually, I did the graphic.
Okay, all right. Let me quickly do these. The Hawk newspaper, hell, and I mean hell, literally, Gehenna. Hell too good for greedy MPP appointees. And guess who's saying this? Is the person, Nana Obuasi. You know him. He's the one saying this. If I go to page 7. In a scathing tirade, Nana Obuasi, the former Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, has blasted the greed and selfishness of certain appointees within the Akufo-Addo-led government, which he believes led to the party's crushing defeat in the 2024 elections. I'll not go on and on, but this is an interesting one because Nana Obuasi, I've had a few interactions with him, and he can be very blunt with his. But it means also that quite a lot of work has to be done within the MPP to heal certain internal wounds. Mahama delivers on constitutional reform promise with new panel. We've heard of that over the days. And this one got my interest. Prayer warriors or political players? Aglo ladies back with a bang. So here's the story. And after a seemingly quiet hiatus, the women of Aglo Ghana have made a grand return to the national stage, and their timing has raised a few eyebrows. Barely a week into John Dramani Mahama's presidency, the gifty Afenyi Dazi, and by the way, she's a former GJA president, led fellowship dusted off their prayer mats and gathered at the Black Star Square, reigniting their monthly prayer sessions. I didn't see many of those when the MPP was in power, but of course, we all have our own, religious. I'm sure at certain times we are more inclined to pray for the nation, and that is definitely fine.
On
Economy
that story,
Times.
And just a second, on that story, it's interesting how social media, people are criticizing the woman because her granddaughter or daughter has lots of bikini shots, on social media. And they're saying, this is a woman who, you're saying, everything has to do with spirituality and God rebukes that, God rebukes this, and your child or your granddaughter is all over the internet with half-naked photos. And the question is, so if the woman is highly spiritual, in jest, must her daughter's lifestyle reflect that? And if it doesn't, does that in any way means that she's failed?
You will always be tagged with, but let's be fair. I think sometimes people go to...
And if you look at it critically, a lot of the men and women of God seem to have problematic
children.
And you are very right there.
Problematic.
We are not mentioning names.
At all. So I don't think they can be blamed. And I don't even think the criticism that Aglo is receiving is absolutely fair. Because for me,
You don't think it's absolutely fair, but it may be fair.
No, so it's not something I've been paying attention to. But I remember because I have a family member. My stepmother is quite involved in that. And they're always doing something.
Do you know why people are raising
Square every year?
Do you know why people are raising it this way? The Aglo I remember, okay, even from the days of, you would say, I think even from Kufo, like back then, before Kufo, and then again, if you watch the trajectory, go and follow it. Kufo comes, when the MPP leaves, Aglo's work, then Mahama,
is the question that they don't...
Sometimes it's the political sentiment about how active you are about issues on... But, I mean, that one, it's for all of us to... People have opinions on them. And
but I don't think that the treatment of her... I don't even know if it's her daughter or grand. I don't think it was absolutely fair.
But that one, I don't...
That cannot be, because this is an adult. That's the right to.
I mean, it's not the woman dressing like that. How do you judge her by?
Exactly.
Economy Times. Ghana IMF commends renegotiation of ongoing financial program. Ghana's economy to grow further amidst forex stability. That's Fitch and ECG privatization. A tough hurdle ahead for the Bahama government as opposition stiffens. I'll just wrap with this. I felt you might commend it. You see the recent appointees that we just mentioned, the presidential staffers. 5 out of 10 of them are women. I think that's a good thing. And so far, the women's appointments. Does that not make you happy?
Well, I don't see what...
You know, he promised at least, I think it was 30% or so. And
so far he's doing
women's rights. I mean, I think it's a step in the right direction. But for me, most importantly, it is women that deserve this.
Exactly.
See, it's not like they are appointed. It's not
Exactly.
tokenism. They are not just appointed because they are women. They seem to have put in efforts to bring the NDC government into power. As I said before.
Ikea, unfortunately, we have to go.
Oh,
Thank you
okay.
all so much for joining us. Our guest this morning, Dr. Ikea Mwako, member of the NPP communication team. And we also have Mr. Kwame Osei Griffiths. He's also a member of the NDC communication team. And please stay because sports comes up next.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftaro Nabila Abdullahi. True Democracy, a Division 1 club, has been killing the Giants in this year's FA Cup. From the round of 64 to the round of 16, they have dominated their opposition. And my colleague, Razak Musbao, paid them a visit and put together this report.
Nearly 30 years since its establishment, True Democracy FC has climbed the ladder of Ghana football. After years in the lower divisions, the club earned promotion to the Division 1 League and is making its presence felt. The team currently sits 7th in Zone 3 with 18 points from 12 games. But it's their impressive journey in the MTN FA Cup that has truly captured the imagination of football fans. The Tema Bay side began the MTN FA Cup campaign with a 2-0 victory over lower tier side Talons FC on October 28, 2024. In the round of 64, the edge passed fellow Division 1 side Koforidua Sempefi in a dramatic penalty shootout, winning by 4 goals to 3. Then came their biggest challenge yet, a round of 32 clash against Premier League giant and the 2022-23 MTN FA Cup winners, Dreams FC.
Oh, we are not scared, but Dreams FC is a big team, and they won it before. But we are not scared because we prepare well to meet them, because they are former champions. Yeah, but we are not scared.
In fact, that match, we tagged it as what do you call it, small axe. We were the small axe, and they were the big tree. And we warned them that if they are not careful, we are going to bring it down.
Facing a team with such a pedigree, True Democracy FC rose to the occasion. In the 85th minute, Ajay Mate delivered a moment of brilliance, scoring the decisive goal to secure a historic upset.
When our player intercepted the ball, he gave the ball to me, and it was on one-on-one occasion. So when I controlled the ball for the first time, I thought I've mixed the ball, but unfortunately, I still had the ball, so I decided to dribble the player on one-on-one occasion. So when I played, it went into the right angle of the goalpost.
The victory wasn't just about individual heroics. It was the result of disciplined preparation, hard work, and the unity of a determined squad.
No, we were excited because it's not easy, especially when we are playing this division, to get the opportunity to play such a big club. Just a year or two ago, they were in the Africa Confederation Cup. We monitored them, we watched them. So getting the opportunity to play against them was a big chance for my players to prove themselves. And then I just passed a simple message to them, which is we are dreaming. It is our dream to be there. They've been there before, they've seen if they've done that. So we will not allow them to come and take our dream away from us, which was very exciting. And then I think the players, they really cope up very well with the situation. They were not under pressure. They were enjoying the situation. They played very well. We dominated them, and then whatever we needed from it, we got the results we want.
Back at the training ground, the celebrations have given way to hard work. The team knows their journey in the FA Cup is far from over. renewed focus and determination, they are preparing for their next opponent, ready to continue their underdog story.
We are taking match after match, match after match. We are in round 16. We are working out to the semi-final. Yeah, that's our mission now.
As I told you before, it's our dream. We are dreaming. We are not like wanting to put pressure on ourselves that we want to win it. Yes, winning, yes, every team wants to win, but we are very moderate in our situation, a Division 1 club, and then our aim is to stay in the league. So anything that comes extra, we will take it, but we are not going to put our pressure on us that we want to win it. When the win comes, yes, we will do that.
As they march on in the MTN FA Cup, the team has not lost sight of their league ambitions. For now, the newly promoted side is simply focused on avoiding relegation this season while keeping their hopes of qualifying for the top flight in the upcoming seasons.
For the very short term, let's say the next year or two, we intend to remain in this division and probably concentrate on the other side of the business that we are doing. That's transferring players to bigger clubs. Hopefully by the third year, we will know we have been well established here, then we can make the next move to the Premier Division. But for now, for the short term, we want to be here and concentrate on our business.
Defender! Well, True Democracy FC is indeed manifesting the motto of the MTN FA Cup competition, the Obia Nye Obia motto that the competition is all about. And after defeating former champions Dreams FC, they are poised to go all the way in this competition. It's the round of 16 that is coming up. They are unsure which team they will be facing yet, but they are unfazed by whichever opponent they will face, and looking forward to making it to the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, even possibly winning the competition. It's not far-fetched for them. They are young, ambitious, and talented. And they are absolutely not afraid of anybody. Well, reporting for Joy Sports, I am Razak Musbah.
And the FA Cup is a competition that has always gotten class from Division 1, dominate and compete at the highest level. And many would recall how Nania FC defeated Kumasi Asante Kotoko. This was in 2011, if my memory serves me. And then there was new Obuasi, a Division 1 team that also won the FA Cup. And Inter Allies that also qualified to the Ghana Premier League for the first time in their history, made it to the final against Kumasi Asante Kotoko in 2014. And in 2015, it was all Premier League final. Midiama SC, Kumasi Asante Kotoko. 2016, a Division 1 team made it to the final again. And that was Okwao United. They came up against Bechem United. And that final took place at the newly built Cape Coast Sports Stadium, which is now in a very deplorable state. 2017 was all Premier League final. Kumasi Asante Kotoko vs Hearts of Oak in Tamale, when Kotoko defeated them by 3-0 with courtesy of goals from Sadiq Adams. He scored a hat-trick as the Porcupines won that competition. So yes, Division 1 teams have always done well in the FA Cup, and hopefully True Democracy will be one of the teams making it all the way to the final of the competition to continue the story of the FA Cup. Now let's hear from a member of the NDC communication team on their manifesto. In that manifesto, they had promised to rebrand the Municipal Sports College to a university. And he says that his team had earlier visited the facility prior to the elections and reiterated government's commitment to ensuring that that facility is put into good use.
As part of the activities towards the elections, my team and I went in there. And then we had, I think we made a documentary that was about some 4 or 5 months ago. Sincerely, the place wasn't a true reflection of what anyone would call a national sports college. The hostel facilities that were built intending to host sports persons at the college now are being used as hostels for the University of Education as a source of internally generated fund. Now, you would find places that were earmarked for hockey. Trees have overgrown. The traditional plan for the soccer pitches, there are 4. Now, it's only 1. The rest of the 3 are just bush or forest. And the one that is in...
At least we don't have, do we have any cases of encroachment there? No encroachments?
No, not much as I know.
Okay.
Yeah. And the existing pitch there, one of the goalposts was supported by a tree wood.
I see.
Yeah. So clearly it tells us that the National Sports College is in an excessively deplorable space. Place where the tennis court is, weed had overgrown and they had sprayed with weedicide, and you would see clearly that. But now we talk about the issue of getting a university. You would need a charter.
Of course.
And that largely has to do with the Ghana Education Trust Fund, the processes of converting it for a national sports college to a university. It's a whole process. And that shouldn't be difficult to do. The reality is that the space is enough for every kind of infrastructure that we would need for, like I said, in the original plan, soccer pitches are already supposed to be 4. And I think that is a good start. Now, remember also that the intention is to have campuses in other parts of our country. So it's just, that is the headquarter. That is the main campus. So all of that are in the plan, but for the processes, those are relative to paperwork, and then that has to do with processes that will be at the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission to ensure that we would have met all of the requirements of being a full-fledged university.
Let's talk some football now. And some few weeks ago, the president of Young Apostles accused the Ghana Football Association of working with Maxwell Hansen, a referee, to achieve what he described as their dirty works. Well, the Ghana Football Association charged him for bringing the image of Ghana football into disrepute. He has responded to the charge by the Ghana Football Association, and in his response that he submitted to the FA yesterday, he says the GFA's charge is defective and it is baseless. And he went on to say in his written response that the Ghana Football Association claims of he bringing the image of Ghana football into disrepute is contrary to what the facts are. He went on to state that the GFA, where he believes that the association, which is supposed to be guiding the integrity of Ghana football, is rather abating the people who bring the image of this game into disrepute. He said, regarding the second count, Addo insisted that the GFA prosecutor's charges are not supported by the specific provisions quoted on the charge sheet. He concluded that the charges are defective and they cannot sustain any disciplinary proceedings. He concluded by requesting for a full hearing where he will be represented by his attorney. He said, you will agree with me that the basis of my defense are essentially legal and factual matters which will require a full hearing where I will be represented by counsel of my choice. I am counting on your respect to the rules of natural justice so that I am able to present my full defense in person with the aid of counsel of my choice. That is what Addo sent to the Ghana Football Association yesterday when he filed his defense against the charges that the FA submitted. The FA had claimed that his comment that they are using referees to achieve their agendas was contrary to the rules governing football in the country, and thus charged him for bringing the image of Ghana football into disrepute. And he says the charges of the FA was defective and baseless. Chelsea back to winning ways. Later tonight, Liverpool will be in action. And also, Curtis Jones, he's a midfielder of Chelsea. He's caused some controversy on social media by saying that he believes Eden Hazard is a better player than Mohamed Salah. And that conversation is ongoing. But now let's bring you the fixtures for the UEFA Champions League. It makes a return today. These are the matches that will be happening. We have Atalanta versus Sturm Graz. Monaco versus Aston Villa. Atletico Madrid will come against Bayer Leverkusen. Benfica will play Barcelona. Bologna will come against Borussia Dortmund. Club Brugge will play Juventus. Liverpool in action against Lille. Red Star Belgrade against PSV. And Stam Bratislava, yes, they will come up against Stuttgart. So these are the fixtures in the UEFA Champions League as it makes a return tonight. And Liverpool, they have got a perfect start, sitting at the top of the first round of matches. After about 6 matches played, Liverpool have got 18 points. That's a perfect start for Ancelotti and his boys. And maybe just tonight, against Lille, the story might change, but it doesn't appear that story will change, considering the machine behind Liverpool, which has oiled them to be so perfect so far this season. And former president of Ghana Athletics, Professor Francis Dodu, he has been appointed presidential advisor on anti-corruption by President John Dramani Mahama. We have that story on myjoyonline.com. He's currently the head of Governance Commission of World Athletics. He was appointed by World Athletics to oversee the issues in Russia and Belarus in their athletics associations, which saw them cheat many times during international competitions. And as a chair of that group, he was supposed to advise World Athletics on the best ways to sanction such federations. So his experience and wealth of knowledge when it comes to governance is expected to play a pivotal role in John Mahama's administration as he appoints him to advise him on anti-corruption. That is your sports for now. We do have more sports stories on myjoyonline.com.
Welcome back on the AM show. It is time now for us to get into our big stories. And what are we telling you about? Sweetie Abochi.
Well, this morning we said we'll take a look at the education sector, and we're dwelling on some highlights from the Ministry of Vetting as President's nominee, Haruna Idris, will reveal some 345 million Ghana cedis to be set aside to fulfill the free tuition policy for first-year students in public universities for this academic year, as well as expand and complete all outstanding TVET projects left by his predecessor. And we're taking a look at this. But even as government seeks to expand TVET access, Executive Secretary of CLOSAG, Isaac Bampo, has come under fire from the TVET division of the Public Service Workers Union for calling on the President, John Dramani Mahama, to scrap technical vocational education training agencies from the civil service. GLOSAC is saying that they duplicate functions of the civil service. And so let's get the conversation going. Our guest joining us this morning, we will speak to Dr. Peter Anti. He's Executive Director of the Institute of Education Studies. We'd also speak to Mr. Thomas Musa. He is the General Secretary of NAT. And let's start with him, really. Sir, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Do we have Mr. Thomas Musa online with us?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. So
yes, please. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us. Now,
yourself and to all your listeners and viewers too.
All right. Now, before we get the conversation started, we want to put some data out there. Mr. Musa, we can hear you loud and clear.
Please, can you
hold
hear
for me? Yes, Mr. Musa, we can hear you. Please hold for me. We have some data we want to walk you through before we go. Now, these are coming from the Ministry of Vetting yesterday, and we have 3.2 billion Ghana cedis. That is for the capped get fund, and when we uncap, we're looking at 7.9 billion Ghana cedis.
So I recall the nominee talking about how, if it is uncapped, would be able to get the 7.9 billion Ghana cedis, which would then allow the Education Ministry to do a lot more when it comes to get funding. And if we move on from there, he also says uncapping the GET fund will free about 4.7 billion for the educational sector. Of course, that is from the earlier slide, the 3-point-something billion versus the 7.2 billion, and that will be the difference. Then he also spoke about free tertiary education and the 345 million for 125,000 students. You recall when he was spoken to about what exactly the plan was for the first years and implementation for tuition, and he also made mention of this point.
But let's speak to Mr. Thomas Musa and get his thoughts on this. What was your initial reaction to the announcement of that 345 million being allocated to implement free tuition for first-year students in the public universities? Initial reaction, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I think that regarding paying fees for those the first-year students at the tertiary education, it is not something that it is a step in the right direction. If I may, it's a step in the right direction. But the question is, who pays for it? The Ghana National Association of Teachers, we have consistently been talking about something. The how do we fund education in Ghana? That has always been the question. It looks like we always tend to focus on the expenditure side. That we will do this, we will do that, we will get this thing done, we will pay this, we will pay that. As I am speaking to you now, why we are owing WAEC, we have not paid. We are owing the school feeding caterers and the food supplies and all that. We are not paid. On the SHS level, those supplying the food, we are owing them. We have not paid. Capitation grant is in arrears for over 2 years. And then when you go to the education and the regional, both the district and the regional education offices, we are owing them. The government subvention is also not going. The question is, why are these things so? So if we are adding the first year university students, it means that we are adding to the expenditure side. The question is, how much do we have that we are adding onto the expenditure? So we need to actually, as we are discussing the expenditure side, we must also be able to look at the income, our income side. Look, as you were running through that we intend to uncap the GET fund, it's a step in the right direction. But the question is, why was it capped in the first place? Why was it capped? It could be that there were other issues that there could be, not me say there could be, there are commitments made by the previous government regarding this particular one, and consistently we've all heard that regarding the GET fund, it is almost blocked. It's like a no-go area. Commitment has been made even into the future regarding GET fund. So is it the case that that money, that 4.7 billion we are talking about really exists? It is an issue that, I mean, as time unfolds, we'll get to know. But for the Ghana National Association of Teachers, we have always said, now where we are now, we need a dedicated funding, or we need funding for, how do you call it, pre-tertiary education in Ghana. So that
Mr. Musa,
those
are you saying that, Mr. Musa, sorry to interject, are you saying that given the current economic challenges plaguing the education sector, this policy is not financially sustainable?
We can only guarantee the sustainability when we know where we'll get the money from. We can only guarantee that. Look, the reason why the Ghana National Association of Teachers, we asked for the review of the free SHS was the fact that we said instead of going by the equality principle, let us adopt the equity principle. The equity principle says that give to each person according to his needs. There are people who don't need to go to school free. They can even pay for the. I remember when I was at I was attending PTA meeting at Augustus. When we go there, the PTA chairman will come and tell us that look, these are the needs of the school. They need tables, they need power, they need what? One man can even get up at the time and pay for the things. These are the things we are looking at. Right. We have also proposed that where we are now is that we need to make sure if it is the case that we can look at maybe getting some, increasing the VAT more by certain percentage, looking at the property rate, the oil heritage fund that we are putting in place, and other sources to be able to show up the income aspect of it. But consistently, all that we hear is the expenditure side. It is just a matter of time, because I believe that when we meet at the consultative forum, we will need to seek for explanation how we intend to fund this thing and also ensure sustainability. It is key, because the Bible even tells us, who is he that is building a house? that will not sit down to estimate the cost, how we intend to finish the building. Otherwise, you start it, and at the end of the midway, you run short of resources. And I don't think that's the way to go. And finally, let me give this proverb in Chi. He said that so in as much as we all believe in the free SHS, some people must pay for it. And so that the poor can benefit.
Right.
Yes.
Please hold for me. Let's usher in Dr. Pitanti into the conversation, and he's Executive Director for the Institute of Education Studies. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Musa obviously thinks there are some challenges that need to be addressed in terms of where the money will be coming from before we can talk about the sustainability of this free first-year tuition for students in Ghana. What was your initial reaction to these announcements and on the back of that 345 million being allocated for this policy?
All right, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers and listeners. I think that I have indicated already during the manifesto period that this policy is not a sustainable policy. It is not a policy that the NDC can run through for even for the first 4 years of their tenure. And it's simply because, yes, we all agree that there's problem with people's ability to access admission and then pay for their fees when they are giving the admission. We all agree that it is not 100% the case that everyone that gets admission into tertiary institutions is not able to pay for it. You look at the data, roughly 30 to 35% are normally not able to go to school because they don't have the financial background, the financial will to pay for their fees. So if you have 100 students and 35 will not be able to pay, why go ahead and pay for all the 100? And this is the same question that we've asked when it came to the free senior high school. I don't know why our politicians do that. So yes, they will be able to do it this year, but going forward, if they want to ensure policy sustainability, if they want to free more resources to be able to do the things that they want to do in the education sector, I think this is one of the things that they need to quickly redesign. And what do I mean by redesign? They need to push that money to the Student Loan Trust Fund. The problem is that people access the loan and the money delays. That is the problem. So if you are able to reorganize the Student Loan Trust Fund in a way that students are able to access the loan 2 weeks before reopening, as soon as they get the admission letter, like they do in these foreign universities, you get admission letter, there are a whole lot of financial assistance that are made available to you. That is what I'm thinking that the NDC should be looking at. So they can do it for this year, but going forward, they should be more prudent with the usage of our scarce financial resources and ensure that they restructure the student loan trust in such a way that it solves some of these problems that we want to solve with that kind of a policy that they are going to implement.
Okay, please hold. Let's also bring in Mr. Kofi Asari is Executive Director for the African Education Watch. Thank you so much, sir, for joining the conversation. It looks like both Mr. Thomas Musa and Dr. Pitanti disagree that this policy is sustainable. What is your initial reaction to this?
Good morning. My name is Kofi Asari, and I work for Africa, not African Education Watch.
Thank you.
Yes, at Addo, what we believe that social interventions must target to achieve equity. Okay, but it's a brilliant idea to seek to remove financial access barriers, tertiary education, especially financial barriers that exist within the 2 weeks that a prospective student obtains the admission letter, and they have to make payment to fulfill the conditions of admission. Now, that conditional offer lasts normally 2 weeks, and if you're unable to get your money, you lose that. And so, for us, that is the student's greatest point of view, or the prospective student's greatest point of view. At first time, that student is not a student yet. That prospective student is not a student, and cannot even have access to a student loan. And so,
Mr. Asari, unfortunately, we can't hear you clearly. Could you speak up a bit? Maybe it's... Are you... Okay.
I'm actually short.
Right. Let's try again.
So having a policy that seeks to remove that initial financial barrier that pays for your admission academic facility user fee, which is the condition precedent to your accepting the conditional admission, is key, and it's a brilliant initiative. However, we all know that there are many students who are unable to go to tertiary because, not just because they can't pay their academic facility user fee, but they also cannot pay for accommodation, or they cannot also fund their recurrent cost of living on campus. Addo estimates that about 15,000 is spent a year in educating a Ghanaian in a tertiary institution, in the public space. So, in view of the fact that we have significant financial barriers beyond the academic facility user fee, it is important that efforts be made to target this policy going forward. When you target it, the benefit is that, assuming 140,000 students are going to tertiary, if you are able to target it and you find that through the means testing, only half of students require that support, the meaning is that instead of each student getting 2,760, they will get about 5,000 cedis. Then you are giving more and more and more and more equity. You are giving more to those who need more and less to those who don't need that much. That is all we are calling for. So we are singing the same song that FS and the same song that every civil society organization minded about equity and bridging the inequality in our society would sing.
Well, thank you, Seb. And I'm here with Benjamin, who'll come to you shortly. Ben, it looks like nobody's in agreement that this policy is sustainable. We should look for money.
No,
we should confirm.
I didn't talk about sustainability.
I'm getting there, sir. Please hold for me.
Targeted, but I didn't talk about the sustainability. The policy is sustainable because the minister has indicated that he intends to uncap GET Fund and use some of the proceeds of GET Fund to support the policy. That is sustainable financing. Uncapping GET Fund will ensure that in 4 years, 50 billion instead of 20 billion, if not uncapped, will be available. And so there is no issues in my lens about sustainability once you're uncapping GET Fund to provide that 350 million needed annually to support this policy. So for me, once you identify a reliable funding source as GET Fund and you're uncapping GET Fund, it is not an issue about financial sustainability. It's about prudent spending and then value for money.
Kofi Asare, we all know how we get funds into the GET Fund, the different mechanisms we use, and capping it for other reasons has resulted in many different issues on the financial level. Do you feel this latest attempt at uncapping the GET Fund itself, do you think that is sustainable? That, you know how political actors, every now and then when things get tough, they may cap, then use the funds from there to do other things, apart from what the GET Fund is meant for. Do you think it is sustainable to uncap it for a long period?
Well, I think it is possible to uncap GET Fund forever. And it is possible for that thought of capping GET Fund never to emerge in our thoughts again. Because that decision is the single most disastrous decision that was taken by the previous administration. And we demonstrated against that decision every year before the budget was read. Let me explain this to you. GET Fund is more or less an earmark fund. Earmark funds are earmarked for purposes. Okay, best known to Parliament. Reason why the funds were established for those specific purposes. Right. And so if you uncap any earmark fund, i.e. GET Fund or NHIL, what you are doing is that you are diluting the very essence of earmarking the fund for a particular purpose.
Right.
And so we shouldn't even have a conversation about future uncapping or capping. It shouldn't be part of our conversation. Because even when GET Fund is uncapped, it won't solve all our problems. We will still need more money. So we shouldn't have a discussion about whether it is possible to cap it or not. Without a capped GET Fund, we run the economy. If you ask the previous finance minister, what did he use the capped GET Fund money for? You will not get a response. And so please, GET Fund should be uncapped and forever.
Right.
The conversation should not be had about capping GET Fund again.
Well, easier said than done. But thank you for those comments. Let me also bring in Thomas Musa. What is interesting is that the Education Ministry has probably the biggest budget in government. You know, every now and then you would realize that the Education Ministry has the biggest budget. Thomas Musa, as far as this GET Fund issue is concerned, what's your position? Because then It's more resources going into education to deal with, for example, the 2,800 schools that need fixing due to overcrowding. And in some instances, maybe by extension in the education sector, not necessarily get fund, schools under trees and the rest. But uncapping, is it something that we can sustain forever, like Kofi Asare says? Thomas Musa.
I still maintain that sustainability should be the issue. And funding basic education in Ghana should be our focus. Look, I have asked a question. Why was the Get Fund capped in the first place? Why was it capped? It has to do with the fact that there were commitments already that are being made. And we have to take care of that one. Because any government that comes in, you take care of both your assets and liabilities. So to the extent that you take care of both assets and liabilities, you will have to take care of it. So even if you uncap it, there are other questions, there are other challenges, or there are other commitments that Get Fund is entangled with, which will have to be tackled. Look, if you pick the 100%, and my brother Kofi Asare is aware, if you pick the 100% of, how do you call it, the budget that comes to the Ministry of Education, almost about 90% goes into payment of wages and salaries. And if you look at that one, you have only about 10% that goes into goods and services. And you just pick the analysis of payment. And Kofi has done some work there. Let him tell us. If you look at the payment, for example, the release of funds, and that is why capitation grant in area, sometimes you will see the figures in there, but the release, it will take sometimes 4 months, 5 months, 10 months. In 12 months, the money has not been released.
Right.
These are the things we are talking about. So when we are saying sustainability, even if they uncap it, our coming out there, and with our investment, because look, we are adding the first years of the university to it. Nobody is saying that it cannot be done. It can be done. But who pays for it? Who should pay for it? If we have money, why is it that capitation grant is in arrears for 2 years? Is that what we want? Why should capitation grant be in arrears for over 2 years? Why should we be owing a WAEC if we have money? Why should we be owing, the tertiaries that are feeding our children? Why is it that we have not even the school feeding program, we have not even extended it to the JHS? Why have we not done? Why have we not done so? Why is it that at the education office and the regional education offices, the government salvation that are going? Is it that it's a deliberate thing that we will deprive the poor people who go to the basic schools, the government public schools, those resources? So we have a concern. Our concern is that let us run the equity principle. Let us run the equity principle. Those who can pay, like Kofi himself indicated by accepting that fact,
right,
as indicated by myself and Dr. Auntie, so that we can get it done. And we still maintain that the challenge here, the fact that the Get Fund is on cap, cannot guarantee that funding will be available. No.
Okay.
It is not a guarantee, because but history has taught us that we have seen it on several occasions. Yeah.
Hold for me. Let me bring in Dr. Peter Auntie.
We think that.
Right. I think I get the thrust of your point. Let me go to Dr. Auntie now. You've heard, and it appears we've lost Thomas Musa one more time. You've heard Thomas Musa, speak passionately about that point, that uncapping the Get Fund itself does not mean that certain resources will go where they ought to go. But let's look at the 2 million Ghana cedis also to be provided in pursuit of FQ, free compulsory universal basic education, which we have in our constitution, okay? And he also has the measuring rod of the fact that we've introduced a free SHS without having dealt with the F-cube related matters, which is why, whether we've put the cart before the horse or not, we have to address the basic issues getting into free SHS. My question, will these 2 million Ghana cedis suffice in bridging the gap?
Yes, I think that it's a good observation that the minister designate made, that we have challenges at the basic level. We've not been able to achieve universal access to basic education. And then we introduced free senior high school. Of course, you will not want to wait till you achieve universal access to basic education before you introduce free senior high school. But it's a good observation. That means that his mind is also at the basic level, and they plan to do something at the basic level. I think that finding resources to improve our basic education is non-negotiable, and putting out such an amount and dedicating it to improve universal access to basic education is something that is commendable, and we should applaud the ministry. Most of us have complained about the state of our public basic education, especially. A lot of people are now or always would want to tilt towards the private because of the quality resources and quality infrastructure and quality education in terms of monitoring and supervision that are presented there. The same thing can be done in our public basic schools if we provide the needed resources, if we give them the needed assistance and provide the needed infrastructure that every individual who wants to access quality basic education would be glad to have. I think we'll be able to make a headway, and that money is sure money that will help deal with the challenge at the basic level. But let me take the discussion back to the free first year challenge. I think that we should be very careful in this country how we go about policies, and for me, if you want to ensure sustainability of a policy, you have to ask yourself, to what end would this not happen if I am not introducing this particular policy? We are very clear in our minds how this problem come about, and we know that it is because most people are not able to pay for the admission fee. Let me make this observation. Now, people are already in the schools. How did they get the admissions to get in the school? There are those who are still struggling to raise their money. So it tells you that ideally, not everybody would need that kind of money. You have a student loan trust fund that is poorly managed and is collapsing. You have this amount of money that can be pumped into the student loan trust fund and then restructure the student loan trust fund in such a way that as soon as you get your admission letter, you present it and you are giving the kind of financial assistance that you have. That is a more sustainable way of using your resource than to throw money away to everybody because you have made a campaign promise. Right. Again, that 70% that will be left can now channel into infrastructure in our universities, in our tertiary institutions. That is one of the biggest challenges that the universities are having. Some people are ready to pay, but infrastructure is not there for them to be admitted. You as a government will have to think around this and know that you can save money from this 300 and something million and then provide or continue to provide infrastructure in these universities. Again, you are on cap and get fund. You are going to get money there. My brother says that is the sure way to sustain the policy. I think no. We have a lot of get fund projects that have been left abandoned. Go to the colleges of education. You will see those projects left to rot. Why do you want to use this money to pay for admissions for somebody when the person can pay? Whilst your infrastructure in our colleges of education are rotting out, that is a prudent use that is not a prudent use of financial resources. And I don't think that anybody should be happy for such a policy. So for me, if the NDC will listen, fine, first year in office, you need to fulfill your promise. But as they move into their second year, their third year, their fourth year, they need to rethink this policy because it will come back to haunt them.
All right. Interesting points made so far. Sweetie, one of the points that stuck out for me, this bit about 26,000 schools not having changing areas for girls when they need, hygienic areas and we understand at that time of the month. That stuck out for me. I don't know whether it caught your interest as well.
And also that 2,800 schools that need fixing, but also tied to whether we're in capping or capping get fund, getting funds to, sponsor this free tuition fee for level 100 students and all. He also sort of prioritized completing all the abandoned TVET projects and all that, which is another issue on its own. But I'm just concerned to, you know, what's his name? Mr. Isaac Bampoado has been saying in terms of TVET and duplicating their responsibilities and all that. What do you make of it, Dr. Peter Anti? Mr. Isaac Bampoado is saying that TVET, COTVET, they all create, although they were created to maybe, you know, specialize in technical and vocational education, they're saying that it is also the same role that the Ghana Education Service is playing in terms of what GLOSAC is saying. What did you make of it?
Well, I think that there was a peculiar challenge with our technical education, and I've written extensively about some of these challenges. One of the biggest challenges of our technical education was the disjointed kind of institutions that were all offering some sort of technical and vocational education. Now, how did the previous government sought to deal with this particular challenge? What the previous government sought to do was to now bring all these institutions under one body and name it the Ghana TVET service. TVET service, yeah, the TVET service. So like the Ghana Education Service, the Ghana TVET service. And that has given room for direct supervision and direct monitoring and then allocation of funds towards technical and vocational education in this country. The kind of revamp, the kind of improvement that we see in our technical and vocational education is because of this singular kind of attention that has been given to TVET education. Again, in terms of their certification, those days you have to do part 1, part 2, write so many exams. Now their certification has been smoothing in such a way that right after your the technical education at the secondary level, you can enter into your technical university. I think this is what the TVET service has come to do, and I don't think that anybody should be worried about the work that they are doing. If we want to, and as the minister designate said, if we want to reduce unemployment, we need to fund technical and vocational education. We need to put more or push more resources into technical and vocational education. And I think that one of the ways to do that is to ensure that it has its own structure and lane that have been created by the previous government. That structure and lane should be kept and should be improved so that we'll be able to and expand our technical and vocational education and get the right attention for it. So okay. I don't agree with Mr. Bampo. I think that sometimes we need to think beyond the numbers and see whether this kind of arrangement is achieving some kind of results. And of course, you agree with me that a lot of attention has now gone to technical and vocational education as compared to previous years.
Mr. Thomas Musa, what gaps, if you know, what gaps in the TVET infrastructure and policy must be urgently addressed to meet this goal? The goal of prioritizing, completing TVET projects and all that, yeah.
Yes. So let me make it easier. You see, earlier on, both the Ghana Education Service and the technical schools. In fact, we had the technical schools and the Ghana Education Service. And in some of the schools, we even gave the name SecTech. So when you go, you can either do the secondary education, which is purely normally about that bookish thing, or we call the cognitive aspect of learning. It doesn't mean that the technical aspect, but the technical aspect also do more with the psychomotor and all that. But along the line, the concern that came up was that where we even have the SecTech, it looks like the secondary schools tend to dominate the technical schools, and the technical schools are not recognized, although doing the technical programs are not recognized. And for some also, the thinking was that they are looked down upon and all that. And so it became, the concern started growing. In Ghana, when you go and do technical education, you are not respected and all that. Number two, the second challenge that confronted the technical education was a career path. You see, when you go to a technical school, there is no career path. There are some that will go to the technical school, they will tell you they want to go to tech, but by the time you get that you do Mother City and Girls, whatever it is, they will tell you, look, no, we don't know this, we don't know this. So career path became one of the challenging, it became a challenge that confronted the technical education in Ghana. The last one, if I may add, was the disjoint between the technical education and industry. The disjoint between technical
I think we lost Mr. Thomas Musa. He was just talking about the gaps that exist in terms of TVET infrastructure and policies that must be urgently addressed to meet the goal of the minister-designate, saying he wants to prioritize completing all TVET projects that have been left by his predecessor. I don't know if we have Mr. Musa back with us. He's still, oh, right, we don't have Mr. Musa. Let me throw that to Dr. Peter Anti. Yes.
Kofi Asare, maybe?
Yeah, Kofi Asare. Sir, thank you for staying with us. So, about the gaps that exist in TVET infrastructure and the policies that might be urgently addressed to meet the goal of prioritization, what should we be focusing on? Well, I think we have to try and reconnect with Kofi Asare, but Thomas Musa is back. Thomas, if you can hear me, please continue and conclude on your trail of thoughts for me.
Yeah, so like I was saying, so because of this time, we have to decouple the TVET from the Ghana Education Service, give them all the needed resources. So where we are now, the kind of investment that has been made, it will be quite difficult to go into reverse. So please, to where we are now, I think we need to get it done well so that all the students that are in there, now they have been given the career path, that they have their own scheme of service and all the career progression and all that. They are addressing all those. So I think that is where we are. So, but to scrap it, I think we have come too far, and the kind of investment we have made in it, scrapping it is not the way to go.
Thank you.
I mean, moving on from the TVET end of things, TVET, I believe, if you look at any country that has developed technical vocational training, is integral, from France to any other country you would look at, the Scandinavian countries. But coming back to issues like pedagogy, curriculum, you would hear the sector minister talk about the fact that there would be a review on all fronts, at all levels of education. While I agree to some extent about reviewing our education, because some say it is not fit for purpose in the global village we find ourselves, some also say that this tweaking every now and then of our curricula and our pedagogy does not bode well for our education. How do you respond to that? Mr. Musa, are you with us?
I'm with you.
Yes, that's for you, sir.
Yeah. You see, the biggest challenge we have is that education normally will take you no less than 10 years to see the returns on your investment. But it looks like every 4 years, we have turned education to a political football. There is serious instability at the education ministry, and particularly the kind of teaching, the curriculum we are dealing with. Serious instability. Number two, we don't provide resources to help us, teach the curriculum. I have just told you, how do you get a curriculum? Look, every employer, you have three main duties. You have to employ a competent staff. Two, provide them resources. Number three, supervise them to get the work done. So if you employ teachers, there is no infrastructure. As we are speaking now, go to the school. There are get farm projects that is getting rotten all over the place. We have not completed them, we've left them. Capitation grant is not going. How can the curriculum be implemented without resources? So we have curriculum there, the resources to get these things done, they are not there. And so you realize that then another 4 years, a new government to come and tell us that this is the way education should go. Then we will go back and come to square one. No resources, and the kind of investment that must be done, we are not doing it. Education is capital intensive. Let me give you this last example. Yesterday, I listened to the Honorable Arun. And during the question, I heard the education minister tell me education is capital intensive. STEM case is capital, particular kind of curriculum we are talking about. So The difficulty is we keep on changing the curriculum. We give the curriculum so much instability without providing the necessary resources and all the things that are needed to get it implemented. So that is our challenge. And so long as we are on that particular path, believe you me, we will not make any progress as a people. And remember, I always tell the politicians this. The World Bank has told us as far back as 2018 in their Human Capital Index report that if care is not taken, 56% of our human capital will go waste because of the quality of education we are giving to our children. So, number one, the curriculum needs stability. Number two, the moment the curriculum is ready, resources must be made ready. We cannot bring curriculum when there are no resources to implement them. We are joking.
Right.
We need to be serious in getting education done in this country.
Right. And
we should stop turning into a political football. So every 4 years, it becomes a political football. We play. Then at the end of the day, whoever wins, we will go back and believe you. Look, we are in 2025 now. In 2028, but we'll come back talking about the same thing. And we think that is not the way to go.
Dr. Anti, how do we curb this vicious cycle, if you like, of changing our educational system from the Gaggisberg era to independence education? It was sustained for some decades, and then we started tweaking. And in this Fourth Republic, it's just been tweaking en masse. Dr. Anti, how do we resolve that issue?
I think one of the things that I said before the minister was vetted was that if there's any area that he should not think of going into, that is the curriculum area, because we have had an extensive review. We've done the standard base at the basic level. We've done the common core at the junior high level, and we just started implementation of the senior high school standard based curriculum. Why would you want to go and review it? For what? So I think that, you see, there are more pressing issues that should engage his attention. I agree with Mr. Musa that he should focus on providing the needed resources to augment the implementation of the various curricula that have been developed at the various levels. We know at the basic level there's a lot of challenge with the resources. And because of the lack of resources, the principles underpinning the curriculum have not been well implemented. If you go to the field and you are studying the implementation of the curriculum at the basic level, this is one of the things that will come out. The pedagogy, the mode of instruction, the kind of activities that teachers are supposed to undertake in the classroom are not the ones that they are doing because they don't have the resources to enable them to do that. The atmosphere is not conducive for the teacher to implement all those interactive pedagogies that they were taking through. You want teachers to do differentiation. The atmosphere is not enough, conducive enough to ensure that the teacher attends to the individual needs of the students in the class. If I am given the opportunity to advise the Minister of Education, this is what I'll tell him. You need to now focus your attention on provision of teaching learning resources and creating conducive learning environment at all public basic schools and senior high schools in the country, so that there will be a smooth implementation of the various curricula that have been developed for the various levels of our education. It is not time for anybody to now go back into the system and ask for a change or a tweak of the curriculum that we have already implemented. Curriculum normally would have to live its lifespan. The basic school is still 6 years. We are almost going to 6 years next year. You might want to look at that and do some innovations in there. The GHS has run the first 3 years. You might want to look at that and then see whether, evaluate it to see whether there's a need to go into that. But the senior high school just started. It is just not even 1 year old. Why would you want to even touch that and do anything with it? So for me, the focus with our education sector in terms of what the minister said about curriculum and pedagogy should be provision of more teaching learning resources and maybe retraining of our teachers in terms of the 21st century pedagogies that are available for teachers to use. Those are the areas that we can use to enhance the provision of quality education and not get another group of people to go and revise a curriculum that is yet to run its full course.
But Doc, review does not necessarily mean change, does it? Because there were so many parents had their own issues with the current curriculum. and, you know, the review and everything that we are practicing right now. So reviewing doesn't necessarily mean they want to change anything there.
Yes, review. That is why I said that you can do innovation. So we have what we call curriculum innovation. So you can tweak parts a bit of it. But I'm saying that before you can say that you're going to review something, there should be a report that indicates that these are the implementation challenges. These are the ups and downs of this curriculum that has been implemented. The basic school standard-based curriculum has run its full course, or will run its full course next year. That is the 6 years of implementation. You will now need to commission or engage the implementers, who are the teachers, and find out what are the challenges with the implementation of this curriculum. Based on that, you can now proffer some solutions and do innovation. You don't do a complete reform, which is the aspect that most of our politicians will be looking at. And I've told you that if you do research we will speak to the teachers at the junior high school level, at the basic level, the most challenging issue is the provision of resources and conducive atmosphere to implement the objectives and the goals of the curriculum. Those things are not there. So instead of you to wait or put some money into going to review this, first provide the needed resources to the teachers. Provide them with adequate training, retraining, use their PLCs to retrain them. You can organize other kinds of workshops through NTC to retrain them so that they are abreast with current pedagogical issues in the area, and then provide them with the teaching learning resources that they need to be able to deliver.
Dr. Antti, you're saying first do this, but they can be done hand in hand, side by side, can't they?
No, you cannot say that the objectives of the curriculum has not been realized because the teachers are not teaching. They have not been realized because they don't have the resources to implement it. So unless you have given them the resources and they are not implementing it as it has been stated, it will be difficult for you to use that as a yardstick to review or do the kind of tweaking that you want to do. So you need to first do the first thing first. Give them the resources. Give them the additional training that they would want to need. Create opportunities for them to advance their knowledge in recent pedagogies. Then allow them to now implement the curriculum in the way that have been provided. I tell you, if you pick that curriculum, even the one at the basic level that had a lot of challenges, there are so many good things in there that if the teachers are implementing as those who developed it want them to, you will see a drastic change in the delivery of education at the basic level. They are not doing so because they don't have the resources, they don't have the conducive atmosphere to do that, and also they are not well motivated. Tackle those things first and see whether they will not be
made on that.
In the delivery of education there. Yes.
Point made on that. My final bit to both of you as we wind down on the conversation. Sweetie may come through with just another bit. But Thomas Musa, I also hear the education minister saying, and I'm asking, is he biting too much? I'm not saying more than he can chew, but is he biting too much, for starters? Because he says, as far as STEM education is concerned, there are going to be model STEM schools, in fact, one per region at least, starting from kindergarten to the tertiary level. And of course, that's a great thing. In fact, he says to senior high level, from kindergarten to senior high level, which is a good thing. But do we have the resources? Can we do it? The former education minister, Dr. Addo, had started something, especially in his area. What do you make of that, Thomas Musa?
So thank you. Let me come back. Let me get back to what, in fact, I need to express our gratitude to Dr. Antti this morning for this valuable contribution that he's making. You see, in the public schools, the curriculum is designed to serve or to take care of three main areas. We call it the cognitive, the affective, and the psychomotor domain. Now, at the basic level, we have what we call pedagogy. And once we are dealing with pedagogy, the learning must be what we call child-centered learning. And the child must learn at his own pace. So if the child is in class 1, and the child must learn at his own pace, and you have given the curriculum, then the resources that must accompany the curriculum is not there. And by the time you provide even resource, the child is in class 2, that we have lost that particular child. Because the kind of concept the child must learn in class 1, by providing resources, because the resources were not provided in class 1, The child crossed from class 1 to class 2. The resource didn't come. It is when the child got to class 3, before the resources came, we have lost that child. And the said that the child must learn.
The child doesn't get it.
Unfortunately,
I think we are losing Thomas Musa there. Let me throw that same bit to you, my final bit, Dr. Anti.
That particular concept. And they will...
Okay, I think we're still struggling with the connection to Thomas Musa. Dr. Anti, quickly on that point, what is your take? Dr. Peter Anti, do we have you?
Yes, I'm here. I was hearing Musa talking. So please, the question again. Sorry.
Basically, the project STEM, basically STEM model schools, one per region, kindergarten to free SHS. We are talking about a lot of things, but in terms of the cost of this, are we taking on too much? Is this administration taking on too much?
Yeah, I think they can do that. The blueprints have already been laid by the former Minister of Education, Honorable Addo. So I think what the current minister would have to do is to build on that. Ideally, I'm not a fan of model STEM schools. I think that we need to incorporate STEM in all our in all our educational institutions. That is the concept I believe in. But if that is the model that they would want to go, get a model STEM school in every district or constituency or whatever they would want to do, I think the blueprint is already there. He can tap into it and do modifications and ensure that that promise is carried out. But we should not go on the tangent of dedicating specific schools for STEM. I think that every school needs a STEM
but you should start from somewhere, right? You should start from somewhere, and based on what you see, then you build on that. Does that not make sense?
And that is why I will not completely write off this suggestion to start the STEM model schools. If they get the resources. So you see, get back to my problem. There are so many things that you would want to do, and yet the little money that is going to be made available to you, you are spending it on things that technically you shouldn't be spending on, like paying for everybody in the first year. So the minister, I think when he settles down, he will think through some of these things and then find ways and means to deal with it. And lastly, let me make this point. You see, another challenge even at the basic level when we implemented the standard base was the introduction of what we call the National Standardized Test, the NST. The NST was designed to ensure that we provide remedial measures for students that are not catching up with the standards that are set for each level of the student. These things have not been done. We have not been able to implement this to its latter to ensure that we are monitoring the students' performance and providing remedial measures to ensure that students who are not getting up to the standards are catered for. You are not doing all these things, so you don't get up to review the curriculum. Please get the basics right, ensure that everything is provided, and see whether the curriculum is implemented as it was supposed to be implemented. If not, you can move on to the other things that you would want to do.
Doc, we're grateful for your time. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. That is Dr. Peter Anti. He is with the Institute for Educational Studies. We also had joining the conversation Kofi Asare, and of course he's Executive Director, Africa Education Watch. And we also had Thomas Musa of the Ghana National Association of Teachers. All of them joined us for this conversation. But there's something we have coming up tied to that self-same conversation, sweetie.
Yes, you know, even as government is seeking to expand TVET access, Executive Secretary of GLOSAG, Isaac Bampo, has come under some sort of scrutiny or fire from the TVET division of the Public Service Workers Union for calling on President Mahama to scrap technical vocational education training agencies from the civil service. Now, GLOSAG say they duplicate functions of the civil service, and we want to talk to Mr. John Sampa. He's Acting Deputy General Secretary at Public Service Workers Union of TUC. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Now, GLOSAG is arguing that TVET agencies duplicate functions of the civil service. Do you agree or disagree? And what evidence supports your claim? Please unmute for us, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much and good morning to our listeners. I have also listened to the previous conversation and I associate with all the contribution from Comrade Musa and also Dr. Andy.
Right.
I should say that the concern of the Public Service Workers Union, the division of the Ghana TVET service, is the fact that while we are all talking about emphasis on skills delivery and employable skills to our youth, we strangely received a call and an urge from the Executive Secretary for the President to consider scrapping or abolishing TVET education, also because he said it was duplication. We disagree with him. TVET education did not start today. It has been in existence many, many years ago, over 40 years ago, 45 years ago. We have had these TVET institutions scattered across different ministries, some of them under Employment Ministry, Social Advance under Civil Service. Every ministry you go, you will see TVET education. And therefore, it was not properly placed under Ministry of Education for proper supervision, resource allocation, taking good care of staff, and making sure that it is well coordinated. And that is exactly what all of us in the TVET industry have advocated many, many, many years ago. And of course, we have all these institutions merged up in 2020. And we think that it is a good thing. And we were very happy, or I was very happy yesterday when I was listening to Honorable Haruna, when he said that he's rather going to expand TVET education. Because if we train everybody in the grammar and there is no skills, how do we develop our country? How do we industrialize our country? So we think that call was misguided, it was misinformation, and
right.
But it's interesting, Sweetie.
Rather expanding and making necessary investment in TVET education.
Benjamin here, you call it misinformation. That's what got me interested. Is that to say, I mean, he's your executive secretary, right? Do these conversations not percolate? Are these not conversations that are had internally? Because it appears you, the members, are standing on one end and your executive secretary is saying something completely different. How did that happen and why are you calling it misinformation?
Okay, so of course we have different unions that operate in the different sectors.
Right.
CLOSAC and Dr. Bampo operate mainly in the civil service. The civil service is not Ministry of Education. If it was Musa that was talking about this, I would say that he's a subject expert in that area. And I think that maybe he misunderstood TVET education. TVET education is not today. It was not started 2020. It was just fragmented education scattered around different ministries that have been put together under Ghana TVET to be well coordinated under the Ministry of Education. And we think it's a good direction and it must be applauded and rather more investment made in TVET education.
Okay, sir, please hold for me. Let's do this step by step. Are you saying that civil service does not house the Ghana Education Service?
Okay, so the civil service does not house the Ghana Education Service.
Right.
Ghana Education Service is under the Ministry of Education. The civil service is in charge of government machinery. And under one of the department, social welfare, they have some small vocational education. That cannot actually constitute a good percentage of education. And of course, the civil service don't regulate education in Ghana. So the proper place to be placed is the Ministry of Education. And so all the various different ministries that had small vocational skills, they have put all of them together into the Ghana TVET.
Right.
So
please hold there for me. Now, both the GES and the TVET, everything that you just said, they are tasked with overseeing teacher training and curriculum implementation in technical education. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Yes. So is that not a duplication of roles?
No. So under the Ministry of Education, we have two main agencies. We have the Ghana Education Service that I would say primarily focus on grammar education. And we have the Ghana TVET Service that deals with vocational technical training and more of employable skills. So they are both supervised. There are two major agencies now under the Ministry of Education.
Just a quick one, Mr. Bampo, or Mr. Sampai, I beg your pardon. Is there any point where there is some duplication that we can realign? Now, I get the distinction you are bringing to bear, but are there any gray areas where we could fine-tune better and remove any excesses or hive off excesses, as Isaac Bampo says?
For now, I do not see at all. What we rather need is to make more investment and make a lot of youth go into TVET training. All of us are going to the secondary school. When we finish, what percentage get access to the tertiary or the universities? At the end of it, how many people have skills that are matched to our industries? So the focus now is rather TVET education and making sure that many of our youth that complete school without any skills are going into TVET. They are getting employable skills that when they finish schools with the necessary infrastructure, they can even start their own business without necessarily getting employed.
And do you feel maybe this will help with the situation with NEETs, especially young people who are not in education, training, anything, who are not employed, not in education, not in training? Will this TVET help in that regard?
Yes, TVET will help in that regard. And that has been the situation all the time. In those days, we had the National Vocational Training Institute that was placed under Employment Ministry. And I'm happy that Honorable Haruna Idrisu was once minister, and he supervised over that. So we have ISES, we have many other vocational schools placed different ministries. Now that we have put them together, and in fact, because they were not placed under education, the budgetary allocation to the education ministry, the GET fund and other resources that is to be spent on education could not be utilized on them because they were not under the education. Now, the Minister of Education will know that I have grammar training, I have TVET and employable skills, and under TVET, we also have apprenticeship, where there are people who may not necessarily be too much inclined in the writing or too much academically inclined, but they can use their hands to learn something. And all these people are coordinated. So now, people that are learning trade, apprentice, all of them, under the Ghana TVET service and under the division of the apprenticeship, there is room for all these people, and the government now is providing supervision through the Ministry of Education, and that is the way to go.
In terms of the cost involved, now be that as it may, that you're trying to differentiate the role of GES and the role of TVET. Are there not some roles that are overlapping where we can consolidate these to save money? Because at the end of the day, running parallel agencies, we are bearing the cost of all this, are we not? Is there a way we can consolidate some of these agencies into one, under one big umbrella? Not exactly, what he's saying, like scrapping it. Is there a way we can do that?
Thank you very much. And that is the reason why I agree with the Honorable Minister when he said that he would do stakeholder consultation, and where there is necessary, there will be review. We are all ready to participate in that process and to make meaningful contribution. But if there is any duplication at all, it will rather be complementary. Also because the Ghana TVET or TVET education did not start 3 years or 4 years ago. It has started over 45 years ago, except that they were scattered at different ministries. Okay? I am actually a product of Ghana TVET. I attended the then NVTI, and they were supervising skills training. And the police, the military, the fire service, they were all employing these people. So it is just a matter of bringing them together, enriching the teaching and learning and the welfare of the staff, and making sure that we have them sit under the right place, the Ministry of Education, with a sole responsibility of the minister, taking care that whether you are doing apprenticeship, whether you are doing grammar training, whether you are doing technical training, you are supervised under the Ministry of Education.
Do you think that the people involved, the students, parents and all that, they understand clearly what these different agencies do? Or is there a need for us to actually create awareness and educate the public enough about what you guys do and what GES and all that, what their roles are?
Okay, so what we need now is to to enrich the policy, making sure that we give enough resource allocation, and we must also engage stakeholders, and we must let every Ghanaian know that TVET education is the way to go if we really want to industrialize our country, and that we cannot go to China and other places to go and bring craftsmen, but we need to train the craftsmen in our country and use them.
John Sampa, thank you. Ben, do you have...
Well, I guess this is where we'll have to draw the curtains on the conversation. But it is clear then, in your final words, that your disagreement with your executive secretary is a sharp one, and you are hoping that the president does not heed this request, right?
Thank you very much. That is it.
All right. Thank you very much, John Sampa, for joining the conversation this morning. And maybe just to wrap in the studio, education back on the table. And like I said, every time there is a change in guard, a change in government, you would see some of these things come up. Some for the positive, but sometimes it's too much touching something that may not necessarily need that much work. There are some areas where a lot of work has to be done, but only time will tell what review becomes and how some of these issues are addressed. But technical vocational education training, no matter how we choose to address it, it's going to be one of the crucial areas, because, you know, the erstwhile administration also started ramping up on TVET with the CTVET and all of that. I think some continuity for about 10 years will start reaping results.
In fact, we've seen a lot of improvement. These schools, Accra Technical, all have been turning to universities, and they're churning out brilliant students who are not only fit for technical roles, but can also take up roles that those who went to public universities went to. But let's see how it goes in terms of review and all that. But do stay with us. When we return, there's more action on the AM show. Welcome back to the AM show. Now, before we get interactive with you, because we want to activate the phone lines, there's an important message for you. Medicus Hospital is a modern healthcare facility built with your recovery in mind. Spacious wards built with your family in mind. A warm and caring pediatric unit built with your children in mind. And we've assembled some of the brightest minds in medicine, led by Dr. Ya Osafo, the drive-time doctor, to serve you. And we offer general medical services as well as specialist services in plastic surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, child health, urology, psychiatry, and eye care. Additionally, we offer a comprehensive medical diagnostic service encompassing endoscopy, medical laboratory services, x-rays, and scans. There is also a 24-hour pharmacy that ensures you will always receive efficacious, safe, and affordable medicines. And we bring you the most powerful medicine of all time, simple human kindness and empathy. And we take pride in holding ourselves to the highest attainable standards. Now, we accept all forms of payment, including from private health insurance companies. Where can you locate Medicus Hospital? At number 10 Kingshaw Street, near Ashalibuche School Junction. Or you can simply call 0501 477-340 or reach us on social media at Medicus GH. Medicus Hospital, a place of healing. Ben will tell you more.
Well, select a solar system from our various solar packages ranging from 30,000 cedis to 99,000 cedis. And if you're thinking solar, well, all our solar systems come with lithium-ion batteries. Get a solar water heater, a solar home system, a solar power station, or a solar generator ranging from 1,000 watts to 20,000 watts. We also sell reverse osmosis machines for water treatment, and Google SolarMate Ghana to find us on both Facebook and Instagram. How do you reach us? SolarMate Ghana on 0508 320 470. SolarMate Ghana is located at Adjirigano, East Legon. SolarMate, we go everywhere, just like the sun, yeah? But right now we're activating the phone lines, and we want to hear from you on the matters we've been discussing this morning. 0302-211-691. Abdul Ganiyu joins the conversation. Abdul Ganiyu, good morning. Abdul, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning.
What are your thoughts for us this morning?
Good morning to you and good morning to Sweetie and good morning to your viewers out there and the good people of Daboya Mankarogo in the Savannah region. Yesterday, the Minister of Education designate Honorable Lawyer Haruna Idris. We all saw what he did, the performance at the vetting committee. I think he was superb. We are proud of him as a northerner, at the same time a Muslim, at the same time a former leader of parliament for NDC. We wish him well at the ministry to achieve. If he achieves, it's going to help the people of this country, we the people of this country. Early this morning, the President of the Republic made appointments just on your screen. I think I'm not convinced. Advisor to the President, and there was an appointment on economy, and there was an appointment that advisor or coordinator for 24-hour economy. What is the difference? Please, President Mahama should let us know that, Master, you are in a serious country. You said that you are going to run a lean government. You have cancelled some of the ministerial positions. You went and kept it at the presidency. A spokesperson, acting spokesperson, deputy spokesperson. How did you cancel Minister of Communication and Minister of Information? And you are bringing acting spokesperson, what spokesperson, advisor to economy, 24-hour advisor to economy. What is it? So please, see, the people of this country are watching, and we are patiently watching President Mahama move. Anything that he did differently to what he promised the good people of this country, we are telling him to come out and account. But the only thing that you can do to save the people of this country, you see, we are doing all these things because of this country to move forward. The fact of the matter is that you said you are going to run a lean government.
Right.
What of all these kind of things?
Ganu.
All these kind of things. Yes.
Thank you so much for calling us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Well, we'd also love to hear your thoughts on the appointments committee vetting so far. Yesterday, we had the ministers designate for agri education, among others, taking the hot seat, including Governor Kwame Agboja for roads and highways. What were your thoughts about them? And how about today, where we are looking at another set of ministers designate, including gender? I'm very interested in that one. And there are others as well. What are your thoughts? Call that number 0302-211-691. Sweetie.
In fact, let me take the opportunity to enlighten you on the various ministers designate and when they would be facing the appointments committee. Yesterday, we had Kwame Agboja, minister designate for roads and highways. We had Haruna Idris for education, Eric Opoku for minister designate for Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Today, the appointments committee will be vetting Ahmed Ibrahim. He's minister designate for Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. Agnes Nalomolate for gender. Benjamin is excited about that one. And Elizabeth Ofuswajare for the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry. But we have someone calling us from Ahafo. Is it Emmanuel from Ahafo? Good morning and thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Good morning. Also, well, thank you for the opportunity. I think there is a particular situation in the education sector.
Emmanuel, please speak up.
Okay, so I find a situation in the education sector that I think, I don't know if it's a challenge that I would want to share my thoughts on. So that maybe it's not come to your attention yet. We all take note of it, and if there is any proposals we could bid in for possible, we'll look at those situations. So what I find a challenge is that sometimes you complete secondary school it's possible that you could have deficit with some of your individual subjects. At the end of completion, your resources released out. You could have like pass mark with any of the core subjects. It could be mathematics, it could be science, it could be English. But here is the case that maybe about 7 of them or 6 out of the 8 subjects that you search for, you've gotten, let's say, A+, B, C, like within the required pass mark that you could use to further education to tertiary. You apply for admission into universities, you are given admission, and your admission comes on conditional base. So the conditional base is like, we are giving you admission to go through the tertiary education system. In the process, like when you're about to complete, you have to resit for the subject that you have deficit. Let's say mathematics. Let's say maybe you got mathematics E8 or D7, it's the pass mark. And ideally, you're supposed to get A1 to C6. But we've given you admission to go through the process along the line, rewrite and get A1 to, let's say, C6. By complete school, you've been able to go through the system successfully. You can even make first class, second class. At the end of the day, when you want to, like, you've graduated and you want to retrieve your certificate from the institution, it will still be there. The condition will still be there that you have to still go back and sit for WASI, like either private exams, or go to a secondary school, register and write again, and get the deficit for the subject that you had a pass mark before you submit that result, and your certificates will be given to you, which I think is not something good to write home about. Maybe the situation should be that you are given you conditional admission. You should go through the process. If you are able to excel by making, let's say, first class, second class upper, even second class lower, now you've proven that you are capable. And then your certificate should be given to you straight away without going back. How possible that someone who has gone through tertiary education for 4 years and has successfully completed, made it to first class or second class upper, you want the person to go back and sit for WASI again for just one subject? And see, some of the courses that we run to, it could be that some of the programs that you pursue, it could be that maybe you had deficit with mathematics, and mathematics was not so constant running through the entire program. Even at the tertiary, it is possible that you could just even do mathematics for just one semester or for just one academic year. And because you have deficit with mathematics, after having school for 4 years completed, you are still required to go back to secondary school and write mathematics before you get your tertiary qualification released to you from the university. So it's something that I think some of us, we find it a challenge. And then I want to draw the attention of the educational institutional regulators on maybe for possible reconsideration, if there is anything we could do about that. Thank you.
Emmanuel, thank you so much for calling, and thank you for sharing those insights with us. And hopefully, if the authorities are listening to you, they can take a cue from that. Now, after today, tomorrow, Wednesday, the Appointments Committee will be vetting the following: Ablajifa Gomashi, that is Minister Designate for the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts; Emily Arthur, MP, and she's Minister Designate for the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture; and George Opariado, Minister Designate for the Ministry of Youth and Sports. And on Thursday, we have Ali Addo John, Minister Designate for the Northern Region; John Kwajo Japon, Minister Designate for the Oti Region; James Gunu, Minister Designate for the Volta Region; and Mrs. Rita Kosuya Awate, and she's Minister Designate for the Eastern Region. Then on Friday, we have Ibrahim Tia, Minister Designate for Northeast Region; Dr. Frank Amwakohene, Minister Designate for the Ashanti Region; Akamugri Atanga Donatus, Minister Designate for the Upper East Region. And on Monday, which I believe is the last one, we have Charity Gardner, Minister Designate for the Ahafo Region; and Salisu Isifu Esquire, Minister-designate for the Savannah region. And finally, Linda Obenewa Akwele Oklu, and she's Minister-designate for Greater Accra region. So like I said, it's a week-long activity. And in fact, as you can see on your screens, looks like things are shaping up nicely. They're about to start any minute for the vetting of Ahmed Ibrahim, Agnes Nalomulate, Elizabeth Ofosu Ajare. That's today, Tuesday, facing the appointment committee. But do call. We still have a couple of minutes before we go. We have Nene Okonko on the phone with us. Nene, where are you calling from? Do I have Nene Okonko with me online?
I'm calling from Sumania.
Okay. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Yes, I wanted to add my contribution to what the gentleman just said on education.
Go ahead. Don't listen to us on your TV sets. Go ahead and talk to me directly.
Okay. My nephew is in the U.S. He had his secondary education in the U.S. And he went to do IT. During his secondary education, he didn't like trigonometry. He passed mathematics all right. But during the IT studies, during his final year, he was made to come and write trigonometry before he was awarded his certificate. So it's nothing bad. It's nothing bad for them to go and rectify their mathematics or any other subject that they feel. It will have effect on them during their working time.
Nene, thank you so much for calling. Ben, let me pick your thoughts on something. Do you see the wisdom in the traditional leaders and other persons who show up to support the ministers designated during the vetting committee? What does it really do?
Well, I mean, it's not a prerequisite.
Yeah.
I suppose it started somewhere. I don't know where exactly, but it's also lending support. You would even find out that in Congress, when the Zuckerbergs and others have showed up, you would find that there are people sometimes with them, supporting them, sometimes technically or morally, right? I guess in our jurisdiction, it has evolved where now you have maybe the mightier the person, the more the people you see. And then you see this nah and that nah, like we saw yesterday behind Haruna Idrisu.
Right.
But I guess it's become a mainstay.
Or is he a way of saying that I was here for you, so when I come calling...
Oh, there'll definitely be part of that. Part of that will be there too.
Yeah. But let's speak to our callers. Who do we have online? Agumba Sandema. Good morning. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Siti. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
I want to comment on the appointments and Mahama's vision of protecting the public purse. Please, I want Mahama to focus on the reduction of duplicate appointments. A caller was complaining about economic advisor and advisor for our economy. I think that is in the right direction. The appointments so far are perfect. But I will advise them that when they are done with all these appointments, they should bring the list of appointments to the Jubilee House. For we know the past appointments, we'll compare and see the reduction, because I think the country is in a dire state and everybody is thinking of how they're going to save to make at least bridge the gap of the poor, the extreme poor. In fact, things are not moving on well. The MPP government left us in a very bad state. And so if he is doing the same thing, I don't think it will help. But I know, so far, so good. I think 14 days, and it hasn't been that bad. let's hope for the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agumba Sandema, for calling. I think we have time for a couple of more calls, and then we'll take you straight to Parliament for that vetting of ministers designate who will be facing the appointments committee later. I mean, in a matter of minutes, really. And I can't wait to see what episode we get today with the minority side and the ranking member on the appointments committee. Benjamin, what was the highlights for you yesterday?
Oh,
I think
perhaps the bit about
give Avenue Markin a good ride.
No, he was. But you know, this is the former minority leader.
Yeah.
And again, I keep saying that while yes, some of the questions were pointed, and he could have easily found himself in hot waters, he was also able to navigate it that way because he was well researched, and he's also been a mainstay. This is his fourth ministry also that he's going to be at the helm of. And he's a former leader. It comes with a respect. My highlight, though, the bit about where he lives in cantonments, that was my highlight.
Right.
Somewhat mischievous, but it is what it is.
It was a tree test for me. Let's speak to Charles Mensah.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Yeah, Charles Mensah, thanks for calling us. You're live on the AM show. What's on your mind?
Good morning, sweetie.
Good morning.
And then good morning to Ben.
Good morning, sir.
I have one observation, and it's concerning to me. I think that the collective behavior of the appointments committee on national television, regardless of the processes they have to go through, it doesn't cut eyes at all. Yesterday, you watched a nominee sat down for almost 1 hour plus, and they were arguing and going back on one issue. That is not to say that is not their right. But the thing is that at that level, I expect some order. You listen to the chair. You cut the eye of the chair. The chair calls you, then you speak. At their level, if they are not demonstrating these common basic rules of engagement, what do they expect ordinary people to do? And these are some of the things that worries me. That is my number one observation. Now, my number two observation is just an advice. We have heard complaints about corruption and all that in the past. Those that are going through the processes now, ready to be appointed, they should do Ghanaians favor by not being complicit in any act that will smell of corruption. That way, we can move this country forward. God bless our homeland, Ghana.
Thank you so much,
Interesting
Charles.
thoughts.
I don't know how I forgot that, Benjamin. Wasted our time for 2 hours yesterday.
Yes,
we simply deserve better.
I agree with him on the standpoint that when you come and sit there, both sides would have met, minority and majority. And some of what we've been seeing are really needless. You see, and look, the Education Ministry has the biggest budget. Yesterday, there are more incisive questions that could have been asked rather than the...
Would you assure us that you do this?
You know, sometimes it becomes a bit of a concern, even from the majority side, you know, questions that, I mean, I'm not saying it should be, no one comes there knowing it all. Nobody does. But there are some things that are said that you think, wait, was that relevant? How does that add to the conversation? And I mean, and then the matter of discipline and whether or not someone can do X, Y, Z. You remember there was the instance with Murtala Muhammad and Honorable Ahia for having to tell him that, you know, no, you don't have the floor. I do agree what was said by, I think, Afenyo Markin against him was not in the best of taste, and he would have wanted to respond. But the chair says, you can't respond. You don't have the floor. You know, I
saw on X that people were calling for Ahia to go. For a stronger personality to take the chair for the vet.
Well, once he is first deputy speaker.
I know, but Kwame is calling us from Jeba North. Hi, Kwame.
Yeah.
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you and all your cherished viewers. Ghana is really resetting, but I'm sometimes worried about people's sentiment at this moment. The new appointment list that has come and people are raising a whole lot of. If the government is not having an advisor on special program like the 24-hour economy.
Mm-hmm.
Can the president himself be going around and doing all these sort of things? So we have to limit the comment. And like somebody said, let us wait a bit. Look at the number of appointees that will come at the end of it. Then we can compare and contrast. Because if these are just 9 names, where we know there was more than 900 presidential staffers, and yet we are not having up to 20, and people begin to comment. If it makes that, it makes the place so noisy, and you don't know what you are going. So it puts those who cannot, in a way, follow these things and know what each and everybody become confused. That is what usually happens. The middle and the lower class people become confused because this one is saying my own is good, this is saying my own is, then you become confused. So please, let us limit our comment and look at how it goes, at least for the first 1 month, then we can compare and contrast the number in the appointment. Then we can say, hey, this is what you said, this is where you are going. But he hasn't gotten anywhere yet to be making such comments at the moment, though it is their might and whatever. Then lastly, on the appointment committee, I also see the unnecessary delay because there are some things, oh, you are good, you are this, I know you this, I know that, you can do. And then it continues keeping the people there. Look at the time they close. They're the MPs themselves. Is it not adverse to their health? Going to be at the appointment committee throughout the whole day sitting hours? So I think they should limit those friendly and other comments that necessarily add nothing to whether the people are competent or otherwise.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too for calling. I mean, it's almost as if it was a field day, but Ghanaians were glued to their TV station channels and phones, waiting to hear questions being answered on how these ministers designate intend to run the various ministries. So we really should find a way to cut out all the fanfare bit of it.
There's too much fluff. There's too much of the unnecessary bickering. I mean, I like it how the Americans and others do it. You can be from that person's side of, the political divide. But when it comes there, they'll grill you.
Very objective questions, straight to the point.
Yeah.
You can smile if you want, but you have to answer the question.
We can be friends, but when you come and sit there, it's a different ball game. I'm not saying there shouldn't be friendship. That camaraderie is nice, but at the same time, the incisive, because sometimes they finish with a nominee, but we've not really touched on this area. We've not done that. And sometimes, too, it is too much of one person, going on and on, droning about sometimes unnecessaries, and then, it's
Let me ask you something. It may be a sensitive topic, but Ben, I know you are not shy to share your thoughts on these issues.
You're trying to get me into trouble, eh?
Yeah, I want to get in trouble. Do you think that Bernard Ahiafo should have established his authority in the beginning, and that way it would have cut off all the fanfare we're seeing? It almost comes across as if the composure of the minority is as a result of the, Ahiafo enabled it in a way. And that's just commentary I'm picking up on from social media. If he had established the things that Apenyo Markin is doing in that, vetting room, would he have done it if it was Alban back then?
I'll share my thoughts with you after we bring in Frank. Good morning, Frank.
Yeah.
Would you have done it if it was Alban back then? I'll share.
Frank, turn off your set or lower the volume. Listen to me on the phone. Let's have a conversation. Frank, what are your thoughts for us? All right. Frank, if you do call in again, once you have your TV's volume up, we'll get feedback. There's a delay. So just listen to me on the phone and turn the volume down on your set. Bernard Ahiafo, my response to you is he is in that position courtesy of his being first deputy speaker.
Yeah.
They didn't have a choice. It is what it is. He will chair the appointments committee by virtue of being the first deputy speaker. Would it have been this or that? The first deputy speaker is Bernard Ahiafo. That's my response to you.
But I think a lot of the fanfare would have been cut out if it was Alban back then. Not to say that Bernard is not a strong personality, Benjamin. It's just sometimes, in a way, we let people, we give people the room to show or display their character before we can tell how to approach some of the things that they threw at us. So maybe he thought, you know, we are all civil, we can all get along, and now he's surprised. And now he really needs to establish that authority fast, because it's a week-long activity and we don't have time for all that fanfare. Ben, I'll come to you in a bit. Isaac is calling us. Isaac, good morning to you. You're live on the AM show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm Isaac.
Isaac, speak up for us.
I'm calling from Tema.
Okay, go ahead.
Please, I want to congratulate the OT Regional Minister, that is the newly appointed OT Regional Minister, Mr. John Kuyo. And I just want to appeal or tell him that OT Region wants development in that region. I know him very well. He's a friend of my father. But in this case, because it's a new region that it's just a new region. And we need a very good image and then development in that region. So I'm appealing to him that this time around, we from OT region, we are not going to tolerate on any covetousness. In other words, Mr. Nkumiya. So if he has gone through the committee and he got the full he resumed his office, he should focus on the development of the region. So this is my small advice to him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Isaac. Ben,
bye.
You were going to say something.
I mean, people communicate in different ways. You know, in what we do, there are interviewers who constrict. So we call them constrictors, like a boa. The person will go slowly and start tightening. And by the time you realize it, and there are the cobras, those who, right from the start, they start spitting and they are biting. People have different approaches. My approach is a bit of a blend, and it depends on how you catch me on what day. But some people are naturally pythons, others are naturally cobras. And if you look on, and by the way, when I say cobra, it reminds me of that song, We Are Cobra. No, I'm not referring to physical. It's about how their approach is. If you look on that appointments committee, you will find some people who are here and there. You'll find Bernard here for somewhere. You can fit him somewhere.
I really hope that by the end of all the vetting, he would have displayed a different character than we know him for right now. You know, it all goes well for it.
That's your verdict.
Yeah,
Bernard, is it Bernard?
Yes, it is Bernard.
Hello, Bernard. Or is it Adams rather? I think Adams in Ahafo. Adams in Ahafo. Okay, so it's Adams in Bolibamboy. Adams, good morning. Do we have Adams?
We have Adam from Bolibamboy.
For a moment, I thought you were with Eve. Please go ahead.
Please, so far with the appointment committee, please, what Afenya Martin is doing, to be frank, is not making the work beautiful for people to be watching. Please, let's inform Afenya Martin to put full stop on what he's doing. And again, I want to tell the committee chairman to always remove Afenya Martin whatever he wants to. If he is not going contrary to his what he wants, he should just office Mike so that we can have, so that we can proceed and do what we want. But they want to delay. Currently, the MVP, they want to delay the process and depress what the Mahama administration wants to do. So they should forget about the minority. That's why the people of Ghana, we gave them to test majority, to do whatever we want, so that we hurry up to do what we want.
Okay.
See. So they should forget about them. And please, let Mahama be aware that we want to hear or see the appointment of our Honorable Yusuf Sulemana. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you for those thoughts. But you know, I'm just going to remind him of what the president said, that though they had been given this overwhelming majority, this mandate, they are not going to abuse it. Yeah. And part of that, while you can go ahead and do so many things, it's always good to have that working partnership, right? So when he says, oh, if this person is, let the person go, don't turn the person's microphone off and all of that. You want to create an environment where, though they are in the minority, they can also express their voice. Let's not forget, they represent constituencies, and we don't want to marginalize anybody. So that's the little I'll see on the back of what Adam said.
Just be cautious of the time. Don't waste our time. You know, we have a lot to do. We are following because we are looking for information. We are looking to assess your competence to head these ministries. Don't take the Ghanaian for a ride. Is all I'm saying, I guess, to the entire vetting committee out there. But maybe one last caller and then we go. The number is on your screen, 03022111691. And as you can see, some people have already taken their seats. Haruna is on the phone with us. Haruna, good morning. Where are you calling from and what's on your mind?
Yes, good morning. I'm calling from Northern India. And good morning to your listeners and viewers. Actually, I have also observed one or two concerns that I want to share. With regard to the appointment committee, even though we know the leadership, most of them are actually been appointed. And especially the minority leader in question has to be aware that it is a government that comes and government goes and government comes. And then if you want to share some kind of sentiments, you have to have a way of doing it. Say that it doesn't matter the beauty of the appointment committee, but I'm not trying to be tantrum. I have observed it, and I think some of the other appointees are very capable in answering questions. But in as much they try to do so, they keep in because maybe a reference has to make to the previous government that is not actually in line with him. I think it is an observation that we are all not appreciating. Another observation I also want to share is regarding the Minister for Education. I think he is very competent, and then I think I applaud him for that. But I also wanted to hear something regarding questions regarding the senior high secondary school examination issues. Sometimes I have learned that most of them are having the resources that are still withheld. What actually the ministry will be intending going forward to solve this problem. And even if those people resources are still pending now, are they having some timeline to actually release them for the candidates to know their future going forward? Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. And that's our last caller. But before we go, I do want to share a short message. I've had a lot of young women reaching out to me and telling me how although the year has barely started, they're already disappointed because they couldn't complete their goals from last year. And I just want to say, if you fall into that category, remember that all we have is 24 hours. You could have lost a job, gone out of school, whatever your circumstances are. If you're looking to heal and survive, it seems so far off. Rather, I like to say, live through it, okay? Just take your goals and attack them every 24 hours and you will be fine. Just live through it. Focus on what you can do in your 24 hours. In the next 24 hours, God grants you, focus on what you can do. Small, small steps. And they bring you the big changes that you're looking for. And I'll be replying to some of those messages, so keep them coming. Thank you so much for trusting me to share those stories with me. I appreciate that.
Well, and that's how, on that motivational note, we're going to cap off the AM show this morning. But it's been great coming your way. Thank you for joining the conversation. Stick and stay, because soon, even as we serve you Joy News Desk, we'll also be serving you the Appointments Committee vetting. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I've done this together with
Sweetie Abochin. It's always our pleasure. So we'll see you again tomorrow. It's bye for now. Mwah.